KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour. Oral arguments are underway in the Supreme Court hearing over President Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship. So far, the argument has centered on the power of judges. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy reports.
While this case certainly involves the weighty issue of whether the president on his own can redefine the scope of citizenship, the immediate question for the justices is whether lower court judges can issue universal nationwide injunctions to block such a move. The administration says the answer to that question is no, but opponents say allowing the president's executive order to take effect nationwide would lead to the U.S. births of thousands of children whose citizenship would be in limbo.
The arguments have been fiery so far. We'll continue to follow the arguments and provide updates. Here in Utah, Congressman Blake Moore wants to set up new MAGA savings accounts for children. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
MAGA in this case stands for Money Accounts for Growth and Advancement. The accounts are designed to help kids have more money for things like school or a home later in life. According to the Deseret News, under the proposal, people who start up one of these accounts will get a one-time $1,000 credit from the government. Then you could contribute up to $5,000 a year until your child turns 18, with the account accumulating interest over that time.
Your child could then pull out some of the money starting at age 18 for things like their first home or business loan or college. Riverton Mayor Trent Staggs will be taking up a new position after being appointed by President Trump. He will serve as a regional advocate at the U.S. Small Business Administration's Office of Advocacy. The office's goal is to champion small businesses and identify regulation that can change. President Trump has praised Staggs in the past, saying he is 100% MAGA and even endorsed him for senator last year. Your money at this moment. The Dow is down 61 points right now. We're at 41,989. Coming up, we've got clouds today, but maybe a little bit of a break from the rain. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 9:02. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
I wish I knew about IWC Roofing 2 years ago. This is Jeff Kaplan, and when I needed a new roof, nice guy came over, he had a decent price, but he didn't work on the roof. I got an ever-changing cast of characters who disrupted our lives for 4.5 days of smashing, banging, the dogs going berserk. But listen to this. IWC Roofing will replace your roof in a single day. Minimal disruption to your life, and they'll do it at a lower price for one simple reason. They're the #1 residential roofing contractor in Utah, and they do it on volume. A finely tuned team of trained employees take care of business in a single day, and they'll leave behind the best 50-year warranty in the business. Afterward, they'll even power wash your driveway just to say thank you. And right now, to get your business, IWC will give you $1,500 off your quote. They offer flexible financing, so call the highest-rated roofing contractor in Utah, 801-841-2700. That's 801-841-2700, or go to iwcroofingutah.com.
Behold, 'tis I, Queen Trustworth, sentinel for seniors amongst the Knights of Scamelot, here to give thee warning. Scams and fraud are on the rise in Utah, and seniors are especially under siege. Be wary of unsolicited texts, phone calls, and salespeople asking for personal or financial information, and never send money to someone thou hast only met online. If thou hast doubts, talk to someone thou trusteth and get educated at scams.utah.gov.
If your water heater's over 10 to 15 years old, congratulations. You've beat the average. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I love hearing stories of people having water heaters that are really old and they're still doing their job. Unfortunately, most of us won't be that lucky. And when water heaters fail, it's usually in spectacularly inconvenient fashion. Whether it's an unexpected cold shower when we're already running late for work, or worse yet, coming home to a flooded basement, it's never fun. If you'd like to look into replacing your water heater before it fails, Any Hour Services is having a sale for any homeowners listening. Whether you're looking for a new tanked water heater or you want to see what upgrading to a tankless would cost, the plumbers at Any Hour Services can show you what options are available. And right now, you can save $400 on a tanked water heater or $1,200 on a tankless. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services today and schedule your free estimate. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Homegrown Home Loans. And here's Earl Johansson.
Crews are starting to clean up the crash underneath I-80 at 700 East. Looks like things are starting to get cleaned up, but we're still seeing delays there southbound on 700 East, even backing up onto eastbound I-80. We also have a crash in Springville just off of I-15 at 400 South. Save up to 20% when you bring a group of 10 or more, or subscribe to Design a series with 3 or more concerts that match your vibe. Tickets at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org. Earl Johansson in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today, we've got cloudy skies, scattered showers, but a break from the rain tomorrow. Highs today around 63, 69 tomorrow. Right now, it's cloudy and 51 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. America's top political story. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Oh, it seems like the Democratic Party is sparring, Dave, over how old is too old. After many Democratic lawmakers in Congress have told Axios, the online news publication, that they're going to seek re-election. And we're going to go over how old some of these individuals are who were asked the question, how long they've been in Congress. So let's talk about it. What are your thoughts?
If this feels like one of those Groundhog Day debates, it's because we've been talking about it for 7 years.
Ever since we've been on this start of the show.
Ever since we've been on the show,
right.
We've talked about this and nothing has changed. Not one needle has budged because we don't have a good answer for this. How old is too old?
Oh, we have good answers. In fact, we're going to ask for phone calls. 801-575-TALK in just the next few minutes. Let's weigh in on this. I think it's super easy to keep having the conversation because it just goes on. And as you said, there's no changes. But let's ask for phone calls. 801-575-TALK. We're going to give you a multiple choice on this one. Do you think there should be age limits written into law? Or maybe you think instead there should be term limits, which is different than age limits written into law? Or do you think we should just leave this to the voters? 801-575-TALK.
What we're currently doing is just leaving it to the voters. We are saying we trust you that if you think someone's not fit to run, you'll vote them out. But that is clearly not the case. In fact, I can't help but remember Dianne Feinstein. Senator Feinstein's 90 years old, and this interaction was so incredibly telling. She's there to vote on an appropriations. It was a simple yes or no vote, a yay or nay vote. Listen to this interaction.
Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Feinstein.
You say aye.
Pardon me?
Aye.
Yeah.
Just say
I would like to support a yes vote on this. It provides $823 billion.
yeah, just say aye.
Okay, just
Great.
aye.
Thank you.
How chilling was that? It's a simple yes or no vote. They call her, Senator Feinstein, what do you say? And she goes into this speech, this prepared speech, and her aides are leaning over, and you hear them saying, just say yes, just say yes, just say aye, just say aye. And she rambled on for 15 seconds with her aides telling her.
How old was she, Dave?
90 years old.
90.
Yeah, and she was still planning on running for another term. She announced when she was 90 years old, after one of these kind of forgetful moments, she said, okay, maybe I won't run for another term, a 6-year term. But it was 90 years old when she finally made that decision. And once she announced it, 7 months later, she passed away.
Oh. Dave and I talking about an Axios report that it's really veteran politicians versus the youth of the Democratic Party, because there's a lot of young Democrats who feel like it's time for the veterans to step aside. Time for some fresh eyes. Axios reporting that they asked, this question of Democrats, and most of the House's 30 Democrats who are age 70 and up, more than half 75 and up, say they plan to run for re-election next year. So most of the 30 House Democrats age 75 and up told Axios that they plan to run for re-election next year. So let's go over some of these Democrats that plan to run again. Representative Maxine Waters out of California. She is 86 years old. Okay, but some might say, after listening to this clip, she's 86 years young.
Democrats are no on this budget. It is outrageous that you all have the audacity to come here with this budget that harms so many Americans and ask us to support billionaires and think we're going to buy it? You think we're going to support it? Well, you got another thought coming. We ain't doing it.
Let's be honest. That was pretty spicy, right? At no point did you listen to Maxine Waters and think, oh, she sounds just like Dianne Feinstein, who was just 4 years older, right? This was such a great contrast.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically the same age.
I'm not done yet.
Oh, you've got more.
I've got more. Rosa DeLauro, Democrat out of Connecticut. She's 82, showing up to a hearing, sporting her purple hair, going up against RFK Jr. Listen to this.
Will you commit to spending the money that is in 2024 in that budget?
As I said, ranking member, if you appropriate the money, I'm going to spend that money.
The money has been appropriated. So the answer to that is if you're not willing to accept the funds that have been lawfully voted by members of the House and Senate on the money for the National Institutes of Health. We're going to hold you to your word.
We're going to hold you to your word. She's feisty.
Yes, and I think it's very fair to say there is wide-ranging competency, right? Obviously, you look at President Joe Biden. We saw the decline over his term. It was as clear as day, physical and mental decline. We saw it with Senator Feinstein, but also you played two great examples of Maxine Waters, still feisty, still agile, still able to make arguments, right? This is what's so difficult about this conversation, because if you put a number and say you can no longer run at this age, if you're over 80 or if you're over 75, then you're maybe disqualifying people that are absolutely qualified, that are competent, that are very good, and you're just, quite honestly, it's ageist.
Here's the thing. If you feel as a party that it's time to get these folks out of office, you got to primary them. And the risk there is you take a very well-known member of the party who has served for, 18 terms or more than that, and you risk, if you primary them out, you risk putting maybe somebody without the name recognition on the ballot. Name recognition matters in elections. It matters. Experience matters. I think voters will say they want fresh eyes, but when they go to the voting booth, they get cold feet. And so it's a risk. But if the younger members of the Democratic Party say it's time for fresh eyes, then they have to be willing to step up, run for office, primary these really quite popular, well-known candidates and politicians to get them out and start over again. And if you do that, you risk losing, that the general election to the Republican Party. I think it's a risk, but if you want, you got to get to the point where you're willing to take that risk. And right now what we see is, and we're in the habit of this here too in Utah, and we have been in the past. I mean, Senator Orrin Hatch is a good example of that, where we come to know these politicians and we come to trust them. and we constantly vote for them. And so even if they say, I'm going to put term limits on myself, ultimately it's up to us. And I don't see a voting bloc that just is not willing to vote these folks out of office and turn to some fresh eyes and fresh ears.
So should there be term limits? Should there be age limits? And when I said this is very ageist, like there's no getting around it, we have a problem. And this is where I'm kind of struggling a little bit. We absolutely are ageist to the young. We don't allow you to run for the House of Representatives until you're 25. You have to be 30 to run for the Senate. You have to be 35 to run for president. We are absolutely being ageist against the young. So why can't we be ageist against the old? That's the question I have. Like, if it's appropriate to put limits on how young you can be, isn't it appropriate to put limits on how old you are?
Yeah. 801-575-TALK. We're going to take your live calls. Dave and I have been talking about this for a long time, and not just about the Democratic Party. We've also mentioned Republicans in the past. 801-575-TALK. It's multiple choice this morning. Do you think there should be age limits? Or maybe it's more comfortable for if you decide, hey, I'd rather see term limits. Or do you want to keep leaving it to the voters? Because that's a system that we have right now. Caitlin, our producer, is lined up in the control room ready to take your live calls, patch you through the studio. We want to get you on the air and get your opinion. Do you want to see age limits, term limits, or leave it the way it is? Leave it to the voters.
Quite honestly, I think the best system out there is what we have right now, where you leave it up to the voters.
You do?
As unpopular as
then
that is.
Why are we talking about this again?
Because I think there's also a very good argument to be made that we do put a limit. Right? I see both sides. I don't know if I'm swayed by the putting an age limit on there, because what number is it? Is it 70 years old? Is it 75? Is it 77? Is it 82? What is the number that I have to wrap my head around if we're going to put an age limit on it? And we have done this in a lot of different private industries.
Yeah, let's go over that.
If you're an air traffic controller, right, you're the one that is in charge of making sure the thousands of planes and flying unidentified flying objects, whatever is up in the sky, you got to make sure you know where it is, keeping everybody safe. They have a mandatory retirement age of 56 years old. I mean, what do you do from 56 to 67?
Well, you get another job.
Right, but when you put an entire career in one area and now you have to retire, that's kind of scary.
You missed the ironic moment in that. That's what Congress has done. For a lot of them, this is a second career, right? They didn't just start – they couldn't run for Congress, right, until they were in their 30s. They can't run for the you can run for the House when you're 25, I guess. But the Senate, it's when you're 30. So a lot of them, it's a second career. So that's what air traffic controllers are going to have to do too. Is
Just
go
start
find
running
a
for
second career. How about federal law enforcement? I'll give you an example. When I worked at the FBI, the mandatory retirement age for FBI agents, for special agents, was 57.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. What do you go do?
And what's the reasoning behind it?
Well, I mean, it's the same thing for
it's
air
the
traffic.
obvious, right?
Yeah, for air traffic controllers, right? It's just the same thing. It's like we feel like that at some point you age out of that job, and it's time to move you along. Because what happens if you have an FBI agent who's 80? Is that okay?
It's a great question. Now,
Is it okay to have an air traffic controller who's 80? Maxine Waters is, in her 80s. She's 86. Are we okay with her having air traffic controllers who are 86?
If they're competent, I would say yes. And I know that's unpopular because that's probably a rarity.
So now you want a competency test. Okay, Bill, in Magna, you think term limits is the way to go?
I think term limits rather than age limits. Age is arbitrary, and not everybody ages at the same rate.
Yeah, right. That's so true. Bill, thank you so much. Hi, Jake. Are you leaning in favor of term limits or age limits, Jake, or you want to just keep, like Dave, leaving it up to the voters?
Well, I think the term limits are the way to go here. If someone is retired. Let's say they're a school teacher or something. They get out of the public system at 65, 70, and they think that they've got a shot at running their county or the country. I say go for it, but you've got to prove to the entire country that you are worth putting into that office. So run at 70, run at 80, and then serve your 2 terms. If the highest office in the land only gets 2 terms, why shouldn't everybody else?
Thanks so much. Hi, Troy. Good morning. You're in favor of age limits. Why?
I'm in favor of age limits because a lot of it is a lot of the older politicians that have been here for a while, I just don't know or understand what. And I'm speaking for my children that are in their 20s, what they're going through and what their struggles are. And a good example is my grandpa or my dad can't understand why my kids are still living at home. They can't afford to live.
Yeah, so you're like they're out of touch. It sounds like you think they're just out of touch.
You're out of touch, and also I think age limits, but also I think there should be an age limit when you're younger, because with age comes wisdom. And at 22 years old, I didn't know half the stuff I know now.
Thanks for your take on that, Troy.
Aaron and Logan, let's just try to blast through as many calls as we can. We're asking, is it term limits, age limits, or is the current system the best system right now, where it's just up to us, the voter, that if we think somebody is not doing a good job, that we vote them out? Aaron, what do you think?
Well, I work in a private industry that has an age cap strictly based on risk factors of aging. And I don't think that that's a bad thing necessarily, but I also think that they should take into account experience. But who's to, forbid people from endorsing a younger candidate if they do reach that age limit or that line that we decide, makes somebody ineligible? I think it would be a better idea for people that do reach that threshold not to just walk away from the whole thing entirely, but to maybe endorse and pass on that knowledge and wisdom and experience instead of just being in it for themselves, because there is something to be said for that experience.
You know what, Aaron? It's funny you brought that up, because as I was thinking about this morning before I came into studio, I thought, wouldn't it be great if we had a mentorship program back in D.C. for future candidates, where veteran politicians took somebody under their wing, or more than one person under their wing, and mentored them. It sounds like maybe something we would do in private industry. I don't know if that happens back in D.C., but I thought that could be a way to go.
James from Provo, which one do you like best? Do you like term limits? Do you like age limits? Or do you like the way we are doing it right now?
Well, this will surprise you, but basically I like both age limits and term limits, and I'll briefly explain why. In things like the Catholic Church, a bishop has to tender his resignation at age 75, even if he might be sharp as a tack. And the reason I want term limits, that would prevent careerism, to where you wouldn't have somebody stuck in an office, say, 20 years straight. We've got a population that'll enable new blood. Let's use it. So that's why I prefer both.
James, thank you. Final call. Let's jump out to Sarah. Sarah, what do you think?
I kind of agree. I think there should be age limits and term limits, and there's a couple reasons. We do have age limits on a lot of things. I think I missed out on part of what you guys were just talking about, but with pilots, at a certain age, I don't care how competent you are as an airline pilot, 65, you're done. You retire. You don't have a choice in it. And I think that is valid, even with politicians, to be able to say at a certain time, then, maybe it's 70, maybe it's 75, I don't know. But the other thing on incumbents and term limits, the money that is there for the incumbents and the name recognition, it's very difficult to get new people in when they've got the political mechanism behind them. And I think that's part of the term limits, is saying you've got this amount of time, whether it's 2 terms, 4 terms, 6 terms, whatever. But these people, our government was never set up for people to be career politicians. It's not what our forefathers wanted. It was supposed to be people coming in, doing their 4, 6, 12-year terms, whatever it is, 2-year terms, You want people there that have experience, but you want it to be able to be handed off to the next generation. And the way it's set up financially, it's very difficult for new people to get in.
Sarah, thank you so much for the phone call. But part of the reason why people stay and are effective after serving multiple terms is because the system is so complicated and is so clumsy that you almost need that institutional knowledge and expertise. If there was a way to simplify, then perhaps it would be easier to turn over, but it is incredibly difficult. But thank you so much for the calls.
Yeah. If you love this conversation, wait till the 11 o'clock hour when we bring it back. So make sure you rejoin us in the 11 o'clock hour. We're going to talk to one of the youngest politicians ever elected in the state of Utah and get his take on this. Straight ahead, the battle to limit birthright citizenship in this country heads to the United States Supreme Court today. So legal analyst Greg Skordas on deck next to explain the arguments the Trump administration will use to convince the justices to alter the interpretation of the 14th Amendment.
The main character in every news story is a real person.
I want people who listen to Midday to listen to the show and think it is about them. They're hearing a story that touches them in some way.
The main character in every news story is you.
Whether it is their pocketbook, whether it is their child's safety, people should hear something that is more thought-provoking.
Midday with Maria Chaleos. All new noon to 3 on KSL News Radio.
I'm Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox. Listen to what actual clients have had to say about working with us.
I'm Paul. I'm a contractor. I had a tax problem that was pretty significant. Needed some help with the IRS. I had prepared my taxes for a few years, but when I went to file them, I didn't have any money to pay those taxes. And so I just filed the returns in my drawer and went about my business. And about 3 years went by when I did that, and pretty soon I owed $102,000. And I met with Jordan, and we talked about the hole I dug myself into. And from start to finish, the process was encouraging, supportive, saved me about $80,000, $102,000 to $22,000. No complaints.
Hi, I'm Jordan Wilcox. You need a tax attorney that's not afraid to fight for you. Schedule your free consultation today. Visit endtaxworry.com.
The relief is immeasurable.
Don't wait. End your nightmare. Your relief starts at endtaxworry.com.
Summer is just around the corner. Kickstart your next great adventure during Motorsportsland RV Center's huge pre-Memorial Day sale. Save big on hundreds of RVs, travel trailers, fifth wheels, toy haulers, and motorhomes, all priced to move before the holiday rush. Get camping ready with travel trailers from just $6 a day, or upgrade to a luxury RV and save thousands. Unlike other dealers, we don't sneak in hidden fees for freight, prep, or orientation. What you see is what you pay. Every RV comes with free training, so you're adventure ready the moment you leave the lot. With flexible financing, upfront pricing, and Utah's best selection, your summer adventure starts at a Motorsportsland RV Center. Hurry into Mill Creek or Spanish Fork, or visit motorsportsland.com and let Motorsportsland help you get away.
Let Motorsportsland help you get away.
Motorsportsland.com.
Peyton was a very kind and giving person. At 15 years old, he sustained life-threatening injuries from a motorcycle accident that took his life. His family felt like Peyton would want to save others and made the decision to donate his organs. Because of their generosity, his organs saved a 2-year-old girl, a teenage boy, and others that were desperate in need of life-saving organs. Go to donorconnect.life and read about what it takes to become a donor. Did you know many people think that they're too old or not in good enough health to be a donor? Anyone can be a donor. If you were told that it could save the life for someone close to you, or even a stranger, would you donate? Finding out more on why you should become a donor is easy. DonorConnect.life can walk you through the process and what it takes to simply sign up. Check yes to become a donor when you renew your driver's license. Give hope. Heal life. DonorConnect.life.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture with daily use.
Get ready for Camping World's Red, White, and New Trade event, May 15th through the 18th. Get the highest value for your RV guaranteed during the biggest RV trade event of the year. Shop the best RV deals in America with new RVs starting as low as $92 a month. Get ready for the holiday weekend with up to 45% off grills and 25% off product installation. Plus, we'll have free hats, free propane refills, free food, and fun for the whole family. Don't miss the incredible Red, White, and New Trade event, May 15th through the 18th at your local Camping World.
See dealer for full details and disclaimers.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour, Utah Valley University is expanding its prior credit program to include any experience that could fit into an existing program. UVU's Senior Director of Adult Learner Programs, Wade Oliver, says they've had their prior credit program for many years, but now anyone who can show they've gained relevant experience can earn credit.
Humanitarian service, missionary service, workplace really is primarily where that's at as well. And wherever that comes from, we are happy to look at that and look for college-level learning in there that may apply toward our programs.
He says the goal is not just to do credit for credit's sake, but they want to help their students advance. The Salt Lake City Library is reopening its rooftop terrace this weekend after spending nearly 2 years rebuilding it. Director of Marketing and Communications Quinn McQueen says taxpayers won't be paying for any of the repairs.
Total budget was close to $10 million, and the way that we did that was we saved up year over year, so we didn't ask for a tax increase to cover any of that.
McQueen says they designed the roof based on community input, and it can hold around 400 people. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Turkey for possible peace talks. A Russian delegation is there, but Russian President Vladimir Putin is not.
I think on many levels it's not a huge surprise. You had President Trump speaking, essentially saying that even he doesn't think that Putin would come here to Turkey unless Trump was also coming. I mean, there is pressure, without a doubt. But at the moment, I think it sends a signal, that and the delegation that they've chosen, that for Russia, this isn't crunch talks, this isn't the last minute, this isn't a breakthrough in any kind of deal.
ABC's Ian Pannell reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 88 points now. That's 0.2%. We're at 42,139. Coming up, we'll find out when this rain moves out of here and what the temperatures look like. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
One of the best things about Salt Lake City fat loss is it works. It was incredible. I can't believe it. So many programs out there can be effective, but I'll tell you this, the ease of the Salt Lake City Fat Loss Program, to understand it, to follow it. I wasn't having to spend all day on my phone tracking every single thing I put into my mouth. They make a program and a system that is so easy to follow, and that simplicity allowed me to stay on the program. And when you stay on the program, you can see some incredible results. I lost 57 pounds in just 60 days with Salt Lake City Fat Loss, without surgery, without injections, without any insane workout routines. It was a great program. I saw incredible results, and I've had so many people come up to me and tell me about their success stories. 20, 30, 40 pounds lost on this program. So if you're interested, you're going to get an extra $200 off the program. Just reach out to them. Check out their website, slcfatloss.com. Go ahead and schedule a free consultation, slcfatloss.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Homegrown Home Loans. And here's Virl Johansson.
We're seeing some slowdowns northbound I-15 in Murray, right around the 4500 South exit, as people are just having a hard time merging in. Other than that, north and southbound I-15 between Ogden and Provo, looking like a nice drive. Whipple Service Champions, your cooling, heating, plumbing, drains, and electrical specialists. Whipple that away. Virl Johansson in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be mostly cloudy with scattered showers, highs around 63. A little break from the rain tomorrow with a high of 69 before we get another storm in here on Saturday. Right now, it's cloudy and 53 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave
and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories. On KSL News Radio, Dave and Dujanovic, special coverage of the top national story.
And our top national story takes us to the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court. The battle to limit birthright citizenship heads to the Supreme Court today. We're going to get with legal analyst Greg Skordas. He's on deck right now to explain the arguments that the Trump administration will use to try to convince the justices to alter what's been widely accepted as the interpretation of the 14th Amendment.
It does bring up a very good question about the role that judges play in this country. You know, typically when I think about a judge, if we're going before a judge, it is to rule on something for me, the aggrieved, the person individually. But what is happening is these judges with their injunctions are not just protecting the people themselves, but it is blocking policy countrywide or nationwide. And I want to pick the brain of legal analyst Greg Skordas here in a minute about that very thing.
So let's just back up just a minute. This has to do with an executive order that President Trump signed. So he attempted to limit birthright citizenship. And Reuters reports this could alter the interpretation of the 14th Amendment. In a nutshell, what the 14th Amendment says is that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Before we get to Greg, let me repeat that. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States.
Greg, joining us right now, Greg Skordas, our KSL legal analyst. There's a few different angles here, but let's just start off with that. Like the base interpretation of the 14th Amendment is really what is being questioned.
Well, that's part of what's being questioned, but you're absolutely right. On its face, the 14th Amendment reads exactly what Debbie just said. If you're born here, you're a citizen. And that has been the law, Dave, since, 1868, when it was passed at the end of slavery. It was passed because the North was afraid that the South was just going to deport all of the slaves, and so they enacted legislation, or actually a constitutional amendment, the 14th Amendment, that said, no, you can't deport them because they're born here and so they're citizens. And no one's ever challenged it or even thought to. Actually, it has been challenged once, but it was a long time ago, and it was found to be that's the law of the land. And so now we are looking at it again because Trump has issued what's called an executive order saying, no, let's put that constitutional amendment on hold.
Greg Skordas, when you put it in hold, maybe you can walk us through some of that, because I guess in my brain when I think about a judge and you go before a judge, he would be ruling against the aggrieved, the party that has standing. What's interesting to me is this is not just a ruling for that person, but these federal judges are able to put an injunction and basically put a stay on it nationwide versus just affecting the one person.
That's exactly the point here, Dave. That's exactly the point. So Trump issues this executive order, and he's done, I don't know, maybe 100 executive orders. Those are typically used in emergency situations, at wartime or something like that. But he's used them quite liberally. And a number of states have said, wait a minute, you can't just suspend the 14th Amendment. And so they've filed challenges. And a particular judge in a particular jurisdiction is saying, no, you can't do that. And he has stayed that executive order. And so the question today is, can one judge from one state stay an order that applies to every court in the country, if that makes any sense? So we're not really looking at the constitutionality of the executive order, but the power of a court to stay an executive order nationwide.
Okay, so if the justices rule, and they don't usually rule immediately, right?
Well, they should rule fairly quickly
Okay.
on this one, Debbie, because it does deal with a constitutional amendment, and it's kind of a yes or no. But you're right. They're arguing today at the Supreme Court. I'm sure that they're going to take it under advisement, but I wouldn't think that this is one we're going to get in August. We'll probably get it in June.
So let's just for a moment play what if. What if the justices side with the Trump administration on this. What does that mean for people who were born on U.S. soil, but maybe born to people who had immigrated here illegally?
Well, it means one of two things. One, either there are going to be 50 lawsuits in every state so that we don't have one judge in one state making the law for the entire country, and you can bet that that'll happen, or we're going to have some sort of a on hold where we're trying to decide what happens to these people. I would assume there'll be some level of due process, and they'll be tried on a case-by-case basis before people who are claiming citizenship solely on the fact that they were born in this country are going to be or would ever be deported based on this new executive order.
And would they be able to lean on the 14th Amendment to support their argument?
Pretty heavily.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it's there. And I'm glad you started this segment, Debbie, with reading that, because it's crystal clear. If you look at the language of the 14th Amendment, it's straight up. But I think what the Trump administration is saying, and I'll try to be quick, is that, well, really, what was the intent of it? The intent was to not deport slaves. We're not doing that anymore. We're looking at people who were born here for whatever reason. Their parents just happen to be here and they get born. And the Trump administration is saying, really, was that what the people who enacted this constitutional amendment meant to do when they enacted it? And say, well, gee, just because you're born here, you're automatically a citizen. So those are the two questions that we're looking at: the strict language or the intent of the language.
Greg, that's such a great point. Maybe you can expound on intent and what kind of a role intent plays in this, because again, as the times are changing, how often does what was set 250 years ago apply to today? So what role does that original intent play in this?
I think it plays a lot, and I think that's going to be a big part of this. Really, what was going on at the time? What was the intent of the legislation? What were the people trying to accomplish at the time? And does that still apply? And then you have to look at the strict language. Any person born, you're a citizen. So did they intend it to really be that broad, or did they intend to protect slaves? And I think that's what the court's going to have to weigh in on secondarily. But first, it's try to decide whether or not a judge can simply stay in executive order.
We're talking to Greg Skordas, our legal analyst, right now about a matter that's before the United States Supreme Court referencing birthright citizenship. And this is all based on one of President Trump's executive orders. But Greg, to your point about intent, can't we say that about every single clause in the United States Constitution? And at what point do we say, well, this was 1700 and something that this thing was written in? Well, now we have the internet today, and now we have telephones today, and now we have air travel today to get protesters closer to play. We could just sit for days and weeks, and if not years, and argue in circles about that in almost every aspect of the U.S. Constitution.
Well, and in some respects, Debbie, that's what the Trump administration is doing. I mean, they're trying to revisit the Fifth Amendment and talking about due process and habeas corpus. They're trying to revisit so much and say, those are so antiquated. That may not be what the founding fathers meant. But right now, it's what they said. And it seems to me that the courts have to give great deference to what they said without doing too much sort of looking into what they really meant behind that.
Greg, thank you so much for joining us. We will continue to follow this. Greg Skordas, our KSL legal analyst.
Straight ahead, I think there's something really important happening today in the city of South Salt Lake. There's an old Motel 6 that's reopening. And that's really not the story that I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is why this old motel that's now been retrofitted gives hope for a lot of Utah families. So we'll talk about that next.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
You ever try fixing your car and realize you're missing that one part? Yeah, been there. That's why eBay's my go-to. They've got millions of parts, guaranteed to fit. I'm talking brake pads for when yours have seen one too many miles of stop and go. Oil filters, because you don't mess around with your engine care. Even got this cold air intake on my watch list. I might just go for it. To keep the ride cool and your DIY streak hot. Find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things. People. Love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Dave, and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
There's something really important happening today in the city of South Salt Lake, and I am so excited to talk about this because I think this story gives hope to Utah families. So it begins with an old motel. I think it's a Motel 6. It's reopening today, but not as a traditional, I say air quotes, motel. It is opening up as a shelter for Utah families that are experiencing homelessness.
And just on the surface, how much sense does this make? You've got private rooms. They're small. You've got a bed. You've got private bathrooms. Oftentimes you'll have a little kitchenette, something small. But it makes all the sense in the world, right? Because when you and I were touring the women's shelter last year, a couple years ago, I couldn't help but just take in the communal living. Everyone was together, cots, side by side in big gymnasium type areas. Even there was such a demand, there was an overflow. These cots were set up in the hallways, right? It was just, there was no privacy. Total communal living.
Yeah, when I think of families, I think of the children. I think this is a dignified way to give parents and children some privacy. And we have so many older hotels that I think this is really eye-opening as a possibility for what we can do with these older hotels. And KSL News Radio's Don Brinkerhoff, we were in the newsroom this morning talking. He's like, Deb, I did a story on this just a couple of weeks ago in light of the fact that this was opening up.
A collaboration between the Road Home, South Salt Lake, and the state of Utah and other private donors has converted an old Motel 6 into a space where families can get meals and access to services.
We have been in a state of not having enough shelter for families for the past couple of years, which means that at our main shelter in Midvale, we have had to say no to some families with children that were seeking crisis shelter.
Michelle Flynn is the chief executive officer for the Road Home. She says this new facility will provide shelter for up to 85 families. Don Brinkerhoff, KSL News Radio.
Joining us right now is the executive director of Shelter the Homeless, Laurie Hopkins. And Laurie, perhaps you can help me understand, is this temporary housing? Is this semi-permanent housing? What is the purpose of this?
Good morning. Well, it is temporary housing. We do need to ensure that our families and these children are not sleeping in their cars, they're not on the streets, and they have a safe and private place to make their home while they're getting back on their feet. We need to make sure that they're fed, they're bused to school, all of the various things that families need, they can get at this shelter facility, and we're doing it. So Utah's families aren't on the streets. There are a lot of them are right now, and this will fill that need.
Lori, walk us through the hotel now shelter. What does it look like? What needed to be worked on and converted? Take us inside, if you will.
Absolutely. Well, 2.5 years ago, coming out of COVID, and when housing prices started to really creep up and rents really started to creep up, we realized that we needed to act on the increased family homelessness, and we needed to act quickly. And so these motels that are out in our community that are aging, that need a little love, we realized that we could buy one or two, because we also have one for seniors out in Sandy, and we could quickly refurbish them and get them ready for occupancy much faster than a new build. And so we were lucky enough to find this facility in South Salt Lake. They're great partners in that city. They understand and have a lot of families that are on the edge as well. And so they understand family homelessness. And so we, Shelter the Homeless, we're the organization that owns a lot of the shelter facilities in Salt Lake County. We have over 80% of shelter beds in the 6 facilities we own. And we work with partners to make sure these services are delivered. But we found this motel, old Motel 6, as it was pointed out before. And there are 103 rooms in these 4 buildings that are clustered on that corner of 33rd South. And we made sure that they were refurbished and made ready for a welcoming place for these families and children. We put up a fence. We ensured there was a dog walking area. We have a lovely dining room where Shelter the Homeless will purchase and deliver meals to these families. And the kids will be able to go to school. The parents will be able to find work if they don't have it and connect to other services they need. So this really is going to be a great location. It's in the heart of our city, the heart of Salt Lake County, and so well positioned to serve all of the families that have this need around the facility.
So if a family wants to use this facility, is there a waiting list? Do you have to sign up? Does it turn over every night, or is there like a time limit of how long you can stay before you have to rotate out?
Sure. Yeah. So, boy, that really is the goal of Shelter the Homeless, is to ensure that the homelessness is really rare. And if there's homelessness being experienced, we want it to be as brief as possible. So there isn't a time limit for these families. They can't stay forever, of course, but they do have many, many months. And normally we're able to resolve the family homelessness in under 90 days. That's pretty common for most families. And so it's a complex problem, and families have different needs. But in the end, the core of it is the affordability of housing in our community. And so we're really trying to move them on and make their stay with us as brief as possible, but make them as comfortable as possible and able to really raise their kids day to day and take care of everything as they're moving through this tough and traumatic part of their lives.
Lori Hopkins is the executive director of Shelter the Homeless. We're talking to her today because an old Motel 6 on 3300 South there in South Salt Lake is reopening today. Families are moving in, families who are experiencing homelessness. And the benefit for these families is, quite frankly, the bottom line is dignity. They get their own rooms to stay in. Imagine an old hotel getting converted. And that's what I love about this, Lori, is they've got the private rooms. I've done so many stories over the years with people experiencing homelessness, and they often say, I put my stuff in a shelter and it gets stolen. I don't want to leave it there out in the open. And if I could just shut the door, I would feel much more comfortable with that. And with children involved, what a great thing that parents know they can be safe behind that closed door when they're sleeping at night, too.
Absolutely. We really understand that, having a dorm-style approach to shelter, while it is more affordable and we can help more people typically in a facility at any given time, sometimes it doesn't meet all the needs that a person may have. And that is especially true of families. We're going to have families that have brand new babies. We're going to have families that have the grandma living with them. It's going to the complexion of families is so different. The needs are varied. But at the core of it, a family needs to feel like when they're driving into this facility that they're coming home and that they have a place to rest for a certain period of time. And, we actually purchased this facility 2 years ago in April in 2023. Fast forward 2 years later, and our partner and operator, the Road Home, is going to be welcoming families today at this facility. They'll be walking in the front door, and they'll have a place they can rest and be safe.
Thank you so much for joining us. Lori Hopkins, the Executive Director of Shelter the Homeless.
Yeah. Straight ahead, we caught this story on KSL5 television, the investigative team for KSL5 TV taking a very close look into a practice at Utah schools involving seclusion rooms. We're going to go in depth on that next.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Summer is right around the corner.
It's time to spring into summer with Soda Weight Loss. Today is a new day.
And a big day for you.
Why?
Why?
Because right now, you'll get our biggest discount of the year.
Do you know how good it feels to let go of 51 pounds of belly fat? And I did it without drugs, shots, or hunger. Because Soda Weight Loss works. Just look at all the Google reviews and all the thousands of before and after pictures.
Soda Weight Loss has one goal, and that's to help you let go of the weight for good.
So I lost 25 pounds. I was never hungry. It was very, very easy. I couldn't believe how fast the weight came off.
Now is the time to join America's #1 weight loss company for client satisfaction and results.
Hurry. Savings won't last long.
Let's go.
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Hi friends, Dan the Laptop Man here from PC Laptops. In celebration of over 32 years of serving humans in Utah with their computer and tech needs, we've slashed our prices. And these are the new 2025 models. Here's the deal. You can get our new 2025 S1 desktop with a blazing Ryzen 5 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing fast storage on this promotion. We also have our new 2025 SM3 laptop with the Intel i5 processor, 16 gigs, and over a terabyte of storage for $999. You can take one home today for $999. And you also get the peace of mind of our lifetime service warranty. We also have 12 months special financing available, and they start as low as $29 a month. But hurry in, because supplies are limited. Because at PC Laptops, we love you. PCLaptops.com. Take home a blazing fast 2025 model desktop or laptop for $999 at PCLaptops.com.
You know how they always used to ask you in grade school, what do you want to be when you grow up? I bet I'm the only kid who ever stood proud and said, I want to be a rain gutter or siding installer. Jim Jr. here with RGS Exteriors, and man, I can still remember all those wannabe astronauts and quarterbacks looking at me like I was an idiot. Who would want to install rain gutters or siding? Somebody who was a 4th generation in business. That's who. My great-grandfather, T.R. Brown, started the company in the 50s. Then my grandfather took over from him, then my dad, Tim Sr., and now I've been at the helm since 2005. Every day I wake up and think, man, I'm living the dream. And now my own kids are starting to work in the business too. 5 generations. If you want gutters, siding, windows, or any exteriors on your home, and a company that really cares deep down to our souls, give RGS a call. 801-280-3110 or find us online, rgsutah.com. That's rgsutah.com. 801-280-3110, rgsutah.com.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story, a Wyoming college is trying to bring in more students from Utah by offering them in-state tuition rates. KSL News Radio's Adam Small reports.
Sheridan College in northern Wyoming is now offering students from Utah and all over the country the same flat rate of about $4,800 a year on average to go to school there, making their price similar to what our students pay to attend places like Salt Lake Community College or Snow College. Now, some education leaders think this is an effort to poach our students. The commissioner over Utah's system of higher education told the Salt Lake Tribune, quote, "I think we'll see more out-of-state institutions offering steep discounts to try to get our students."
Education leaders say we need to be more innovative and strategic to keep local students here in Utah. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, a Wisconsin judge accused of helping a man evade federal immigration agents has pleaded not guilty to federal charges. Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan entered the plea during an arraignment today. According to an FBI affidavit, Dugan showed a man out the back door of her courtroom last month after learning immigration agents were in the courthouse looking to arrest him for being in the country illegally. 3 men living in Salt Lake City are facing federal charges in an alleged $3 million fake check scheme. The men are accused of laundering money using fake checks and stolen mail to open 40 accounts and send money to China and Singapore. Your money at this moment, the Dow right now up 141 points. That's 0.3%. We're at 42,192. Coming up, some light showers today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Are you looking for the perfect downtown lunch spot? The Garden Restaurant is opening on June 30th in Salt Lake City. Enjoy a reimagined space and a fresh, healthy menu featuring handcrafted sandwiches, rich soups, unique salads, and their famous homemade pot pies. You'll see and taste the difference in every menu item. The Garden is perfect for lunch meetings, taking a break while out shopping, or a spring stroll downtown. Visit the reimagined space with remarkable taste. Grab and go or stay and dine in using a new online ordering option. Find entry from the ground floor of the Joseph Smith Memorial Building, open Monday through Friday, 11 to 3. Visit thegardenslc.com to learn more. Fresh flavors, iconic location. The Garden Restaurant is opening June 30th. Hope to see you there. Visit thegardenslc.com to learn more. thegardenslc.com.
The power of we believes in you. It advocates for you. It completes your circle. It makes sure you have the strongest circle possible. And with Intermountain Health in yours, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
Are you living with dry AMD? If so, you could be on the road to geographic atrophy, or GA, a condition that leads to retinal cell death and permanent vision loss. But with iZurvey, you can
slow it down again.
get it going slower.
Izervay slows GA progression by targeting a key source of retinal cell death, which may help preserve your vision longer. Izervay, or Avastin Captid Pagel, is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house, whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Homegrown Home Loans. And here is Virl Johansson.
No major delays north or southbound I-15 between Ogden and Provo. Even I-80 looking like a nice drive in between Tooele and Park City, whether you're going east or westbound. Fill up your bucket list in Box Elder County. History, recreation, and wildlife, and excellent dining and shopping await you. Learn more at visitboxeldercounty.com. Virl Johansson in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll see a few rain showers pop up today with a high near 63. Then a brief warm-up on Friday and Saturday before the next storm system moves in Saturday night, bringing rain through Monday morning. Right now, it's cloudy and 54 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Well, I so appreciate the work of our KSL 5 investigative team here at Broadcast House. And one of our KSL 5 investigative reporters spent a significant amount of time, in fact, many, many months, taking a closer look into the practice of what's called seclusion rooms that are inside Utah schools. And seclusion rooms, just by way of kind of laying this out for our listeners, Dave, is a way to isolate a student in a small space for up to 30 minutes. And these are students, or should be students, that pose an imminent danger to other students, to the staff, and to themselves.
Yes, and what a seclusion room is, it sounds like it greatly differs. It can be something that is very much built for that very purpose. Sometimes they're very small, like maybe the size of a closet. Other times it can be used a spare classroom, right? But we don't really have, I don't think, a standard of what a seclusion room is, what it can be used for, what the purpose is. And I think that's part of what is so interesting about this investigative report.
Yeah, so here's the lineup for the next 20 minutes as we go in depth about this. KSL 5 investigative reporter Courtney Johns is in studio with us. She's going to walk through what she found when she started looking into the use of seclusion rooms in Utah schools. And in a few minutes, we're going to have Senator Luz Escamilla, State Senator Luz Escamilla, call the show because this last legislative session, there were some changes made to the law regarding seclusion rooms that she was very involved with. So we're going to have her on the show, pick her brain about this and where she wants to see things go in the future. But let's begin here with a portion of KSL 5 Television's Courtney Johns' report about seclusion rooms when she talked to parents and a child. 9-year-old Mark was put in one of these seclusion rooms, and not just once.
9-year-old Mark Stovall loves games.
My favorite card game is going to be Pokemon or Pikachu.
And like Pikachu, Mark has powers.
He's like the first one in the family to notice if I'm having a hard day.
His parents, Dakin and John Stovall, say his autism allows him to feel things differently. And sometimes those feelings are big.
When I'm like super mad, it's like a nightmare for everyone.
He calls it nightmare mode, and when that happened at Amelia Earhart Elementary in Provo, adults put him in a small room the size of a closet. It's called seclusion. On his first day of 3rd grade, it happened at least 8 times. Mark was 8.
I never felt good about it. but I trusted them.
Dakin says she lost all trust when Mark developed PTSD, and she recorded a conversation with him in April of 2024 talking about it.
Tell me what happens when you go in there. When I'm mad and they put me in there, I get more madder. They just push me into there.
And I never sent him back.
In Utah, seclusion is only allowed if the student presents an immediate danger to themselves or others and can only last 30 minutes at a time. Over 5 months, Mark's school documented putting him into seclusion more than 20 times for behaviors including biting and hitting staff, tipping a table, tearing paper, and refusing to do work.
It wasn't always clear what the line was about what is too unsafe.
KSL investigative reporter Courtney Johns joins us right now. As you tell this story and you listen to the parents and you spoke to Mark, my heart goes out because they recognize that there is a nightmare mode. He understands that he can be, as he says, a nightmare for everyone. But what empathy and what do you do and how do you handle this? And I think that's part of what the family is struggling with.
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of empathy that we have for the teachers that are out there as well that deal with these nightmare modes, as Mark points out. And I think it's important that we mention, too, that Mark was at a school that specifically was designed for students with behavioral issues. So they were supposed to be there for that. And at Provo City School District, that is the only school that they have that does have these seclusion rooms. And these are really tough decisions that these schools have to make.
So, Courtney, you talk to Mark and his parents, and then you start digging through school records to find out how often these seclusion rooms are used in our schools across Utah, and what did you find?
What we found is that schools have 19 infraction options to choose from when they report every seclusion. They're required to report this to the state and say, we secluded X amount of kids, and these are the reasons that they were secluded. And what's interesting is a lot of the infractions, if we're saying that it needs to be an immediate threat, an immediate danger to themselves or others, a lot of these didn't seem to be physical threats. Some of them were marijuana, alcohol, which obviously should not be happening in school, but that didn't seem like an immediate physical danger.
So they weren't combative,
right?
Or biting.
Yes,
but it was there were other things related to the reasons for seclusion.
And the number one reason was disruption. Now, the legal definition of disruption is also incredibly broad. So there are physical dangers under the legal definition of disruption, but it also can mean just being disobedient. So we were asking, why do we even have this as an option if we take this so seriously? Why are we having such a broad category? Why aren't we tracking this more? Because this can have very, Mark developed PTSD from this. That's what the doctors said. So why aren't we tracking this to make sure that we are doing this to the best of our ability, to make sure that we are limiting it as much as possible.
So to know exactly what the disruption was?
Right.
Okay.
And to understand if it is, in fact, an immediate danger.
I see.
Could you describe these seclusion rooms for us?
Well, that's the hard thing, is we don't really know. The definition of a seclusion room in Utah is a room that no one else is inside and that the student cannot leave. So any room can be a seclusion room. And when we reach out to schools and ask for photos or anything on that, none of them will let us see them. The only schools that ever let us see them are the schools that no longer use them as seclusion rooms, including the Provo City School District.
Did Mark's parents describe the one that he was put in?
Yes, they did. They said it was about, 6 by 6. It looked like a closet, and that it seemed to have blue padding along the walls. We do have a photo from a different school, and that one looked to be about the size of a porta potty, and also had padding on the walls. That seems to be typical, that they do have padding on the walls because of safety, but there's never padding. There doesn't ever seem to be padding on the floors. There's usually a window at the top so that the staff can look in on the student, but typically the student cannot see anything outside, and often because the student is usually young. They can't see outside.
And how long does state law allow for children to be put in these seclusion rooms? Do you know that?
So that's the tough part. Legally, they cannot be in seclusion for more than 30 minutes. However, they can take them out for a second and put them back in. So in Mark's case, his first day of school in 3rd grade, he was arguably put in there for most of the day because every time he came out, he was out for maybe a couple of minutes, and then they decided to put him back in there. And so throughout the day, he kept going in and out of that seclusion room for his first day of 3rd grade, according to the documents that we saw from the school.
If a child is put in seclusion, don't they have to notify the parents?
So before Senator Escamilla's law was passed, they had to notify parents by the end of the school day. They were required to notify them within 15 minutes if the child remained in seclusion for 15 minutes. However, our investigation found in Mark's case that did not happen. And we also found in our investigation that Mark's family filed a complaint, and we looked into that, and they were not cited for that. So we followed up with the State Board of Education and said, hey, were they cited for this? What's going on? And they really wouldn't comment on that. Mm-hmm. We also followed up with Provo City School District. They wouldn't comment on that. So even when that was investigated back then, there didn't seem to be much.
So it doesn't sound like you were able to get to the bottom of what, if any, action was taken after that complaint.
Correct. But this year, so because of this new law, parents are supposed to be notified within 15 minutes of any seclusion. So that is supposed to happen.
Okay. So stay with us. Courtney Johns from the KSL-5 Investigative Unit talking about her latest investigative report regarding seclusion rooms that are used in Utah schools. And Utah State Senator Luz Escamilla now live on the line with us, joining us to talk more about this. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
I think for some people listening to this who are unaware that these are being used in Utah schools, this can sound very concerning and perhaps even chilling. What is your just overall reaction to these seclusion rooms being used in Utah schools?
I think it's the same as what you're describing. When I heard about these rooms, I was not aware they existed. And I think many of my colleagues were in the same position, which if you review those hearings, that's what we talked about in community hearings. Just people saying, what do you mean we're secluding children and putting them in rooms? And I appreciate Courtney's work. We've had a lengthy conversation, and she's been, following this whole process and talking to parents. So for me, the first connection was constituents and a story in some of the, media outlets that was just terrifying. And that's when we started doing more review, more research, and we learned that actually it's common in some, as kind of like an emergency safety intervention. But I felt for me, it was the need to be very specific. Here you are potentially, having, touching a child, moving them to a place where you're now locking them. We needed to have more definition and more framework of how that looks like. And we were able to, my initial bill, and I've been asked about this, was to completely eliminate seclusion rooms as a practice. But we also have learned through this process that this type of safety interventions are needed with some children with some needs, and that most of the time parents are engaged and are aware of this, but we needed more transparency and more information through this process.
Senator Luz Escamilla joins us right now, and I can't help but think of some of these outbursts from the other students and the teacher's point of view. My wife works in an elementary school. She's been present when kids are tipping over tables and throwing tantrums and climbing and destroying the rooms, and they have to be removed. What if it's not seclusion rooms? What does it look like when kids are unruly?
Yeah. So, and hence why we kept and we put a very strict law regarding that process. And that is, you're right. So an emergency safety intervention means the use of seclusion or physical restraint when a student presents an immediate danger to themselves and others. And that does happen. And, some children may neurodivergent conditions or other situations may put them in a position where they may be harming, close to harming themselves or others. And teachers have a classroom of 35 kids, and now you have to keep all of them safe in themselves. So we realize that there may be instances where you need that. So you're absolutely correct. I mean, we heard from teachers, especially special ed teachers, about how this can also help calm some kids. But now we need to make sure we're getting to an evidence-based best practice approach on how that looks like. Because to me, a closet, dark, no lights, no windows, locking someone there, that to me is not an adequate way of intervention. So that's kind of like going to be our next bill next year, which I already opened a bill file on, is how do you actually those rooms look like? And, and that's obviously going to come with a cost associated with, but I think parents and our kids deserve, and our teachers also as a tool, deserve a place that makes sense, and we know that we're doing the right thing in helping students.
Senator, in a nutshell, what is this new piece of legislation that you worked on this year? What does it do, at least right now, regarding seclusion rooms in schools?
Thank you for the question. So what we did is we added a section on statute regarding emergency safety interventions. We went into actually having very strict definitions of what corporal punishment it is, which, by the way, that is against the law, and you will be prosecuted for that. We didn't change the kind of like the outcome of that. If you proceed and violate the law, there's already some charges. You will be charged and prosecuted for that. But we then went into defining that emergency safety intervention where you can actually use some physical restraint or seclusion. But we also were very clear that that's your last resource of disciplinary proceedings. And we went into doing tons of transparency components by having a whole system that we will have access to see statewide how these cases look like. That reporting will be mandatory, calling parents immediately within 15 minutes. And we need to recognize that we cannot expect parents to drop, like it may be hard. Some parents may not even have access to a phone while working. And how does that look like for them to, maybe you or myself can ask, leave the office and run to the school of our kiddos. Some parents can't do that. So that 15-minute interval is critical. And then we also put a whole component of communication with the families and parents. And, the other part I think that's important is we will be reviewing those whole, cases. And the second part will be we excluded kindergartners from any type of seclusion.
So if I'm understanding you're saying if a teacher has to remove a child and they don't follow all of these requirements, that they could be prosecuted? No, if they use corporate punishment, physical.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Corporal punishment. Yeah. No, there will be consequences if you don't follow rules, but not that you'll be prosecuted for that. You'll be prosecuted if you're touching children and beating up kids, right? I mean, that's expected. But if physical restraint and seclusion, you have to follow the rules, so you're not, out of the law boundaries, and that will include reporting, calling parents, the whole process that's described in the bill.
Is restraint considered corporal punishment?
No, restraint is not considered corporal. No, it's not.
Senator, before we let you go, do you see a day when Utah schools no longer use seclusion rooms?
I don't know. I mean, here's the key. I mean, we're hearing that there's more behavior issues that some of our schools are facing. And I think, as the previous question asked, right? I mean, we do know that it's happening. So I don't see that. We just want to make sure that process and that intervention as a emergency safety intervention is done correctly. We are supposed to do some de-escalation and other type of behavior interventions that should not be placing a child in a room locked in the dark for hours. I mean, some of the cases that we're hearing about with, children spending 6 hours in a seclusion room, that is not okay. And at that point, the parents should be, also, I mean, this is a shared responsibility, right? So parents at that point need to be also notified and be part of the process. There may be an IEP involved, an individual educational plan for some of these children. I mean, all of that with experts makes more sense. It is hard to make a generalization on some of this stuff, But we realized we needed to put at least a framework.
Senator Luz Escamilla, thank you for joining us.
We're going to bring Courtney Johns, investigative reporter, back into the conversation. Courtney, I know you're still doing a lot of follow-up work on this, but I was curious when the senator was discussing this with us, if is there an age limit? I mean, are they doing this? And she said they're no longer doing it in kindergarten, but are they doing this up through high school?
They are.
Are they allowed to, I guess I should ask?
Yes, they are. One thing I'd like to point out, as Escamilla mentioned, that they are no longer secluding kindergartners, and people were asking, were we really secluding kindergartners? Were they really presenting a threat? Last year in 2024, we had more than 110 seclusion cases. 100 of those cases were listed. The reason was disruption. So that was disproportionately the reason that was listed. As far as the age for seclusion, it is mostly elementary students that are being secluded. It significantly drops off in high school.
And is it largely special needs?
Yes,
kids?
significantly special needs.
Well, thank you for your investigative work and going through all of the documentation on this. And I know you'll continue to follow it along with the rest of the KSL5 investigative team. You can see Courtney's full report at KSL5TV.com.
The news of the day lands harder when it affects you.
I really want our stories to focus more on the human element. Focus on how it's affecting the mom and her children. I want us to go more in depth and really take a look at what is at the heart of the story and how does it affect your pocketbook or how does it affect your lifestyle. My name is Maria Chaleos. I invite you to join us from noon to 3 for Midday right here on KSL News Radio.
Do you need new windows? Look, all glass pretty much looks the same to the naked eye, but if your windows aren't triple-coated, argon-filled and sealed double-pane glass, the cold is seeping in. You need to call Advanced Window Products. They use the highest quality glass and premium vinyl to create state-of-the-art windows and frames, and for 38 years, they build those frames right here in Utah. Custom crafted for Utah's climate. The best windows you can buy at prices 30 and 40% less than what the big companies charge because they cut out the middleman. They're the factory. They even give you a lifetime warranty, and right now as we head into spring, save an extra $2,500 off 10 windows or more. Custom windows that'll give your house a fresh new look and save you money on your heating and air conditioning. Advanced Windows offers 60-month 0% financing, even buy now, pay later, and an extra $2,500 off. Call for a quote. 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100 or go to advancedwindows.com.
Behold, 'tis I, Queen Trustworth, sentinel for seniors amongst the knights of Scamelot, here to give thee warning. Scams and fraud are on the rise in Utah, and seniors are especially under siege. Be wary of unsolicited texts, phone calls, and salespeople asking for personal or financial information, and never send money to someone thou hast only met online. If thou hast doubts, talk to someone thou trusteth and get educated at scams.utah.gov.
Get better business banking at Mountain America Credit Union. Yes, the credit union. We offer all the financial products and services businesses need, like SBA loans, commercial real estate, cash management, and credit cards. Plus, at Mountain America, you'll enjoy thoughtful professional guidance. There's a reason we're the #1 business banking solution. See for yourself at macu.com/business. Insured by NCUA. Loans on approved credit. Membership required based on eligibility.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com and get ready for the workday.
Get ready for Camping World's Red, White, and New Trade event, May 15th through the 18th. Get the highest value for your RV guaranteed during the biggest RV trade event of the year. Shop the best RV deals in America with new RVs starting as low as $92 a month. Get ready for the holiday weekend with up to 45% off grills and 25% off product installation. Plus, we'll have free hats, free propane refills, free food, and fun for the whole family. Don't miss the incredible Red, White, and New Trade event, May 15th through the 18th at your local Camping World.
See dealer for full details and disclaimers.
Summer is right around the corner.
It's time to spring into summer with Soda Weight Loss. Today is a new
day. And a big day for you.
Why? Because right now, you'll get our biggest discount of the year.
Do you know how good it feels to let go of 51 pounds of belly fat? And I did it without drugs, shots, or hunger. Because Soda Weight Loss works. Just look at all the Google reviews and all the thousands of before and after pictures.
Soda Weight Loss has one goal, and that's to help you let go of the weight for good.
So I lost 25 pounds. I was never hungry. It was very, very easy. I couldn't believe how fast the weight came off.
Now is the time to join America's #1 weight loss company for client satisfaction and results.
Hurry! Savings won't last long.
Let's go!
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
If you're struggling with your mortgage, there's a free government program that offers expert one-on-one advice about your mortgage options. Call 1-888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top local story this hour is breaking news. One of Utah's death row inmates will get a new trial. The Utah Supreme Court ruled today that Douglas Carter can have his case heard again in the murder of Eva Olson in 1985. The Supreme Court's opinion states that his trial was tainted by serious misconduct after witnesses were threatened, pressured, and allegedly paid by police to make false statements. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Ukraine's president is in Turkey today, taking part in peace talks with a Russian delegation. The U.S. also has a delegation there, but President Trump says Putin needs to be there for the talks to mean anything.
President Trump is a linchpin, but so is Erdogan in this, acting as the broker on the ground. But if President Trump says to Putin, right, I'm going to Istanbul, I want to see you there, that will have a huge impact.
That's ABC's Ian Pannell reporting from Turkey. A large structure fire lit up the sky in Harrisville last night near 2400 North and Highway 89. The Northview Fire District says it was a detached garage at a construction yard that caught fire.
It looked like the whole building was going down. It was pretty scary.
No injuries have been reported. The cause of that fire still under investigation. Coming up, another good-sized rain system moves in this weekend. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
One of the best things about Mountain Home Services is they bring expertise on so many different levels. Mountain Home Services has been around for decades here in the community.
Yeah, that's right. And they focus on not only your air conditioning and your heating, but also it's great for one-stop shopping, too, if you need something done with your plumbing or your electrical.
And all of this comes with this upfront pricing guarantee. Now, what that means is when they come out and they give you a bid, they're going to honor that bid. They're not going to lowball you and try to get you sucked into the project and then bunch of surprises at the very end. Upfront pricing guarantee means when the bid you get is the bid you pay.
Yep. No hidden fees, 100% satisfaction guarantee.
Make sure you give them a call. Ask about this special offer for KSL listeners at 801-543-2222. That's 801-543-2222.
You can also look them up online, mountainhomeservices.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's homegrown home loans. Let's check in with Burl Johansson.
We've got some slowdowns I-15 southbound right between 1100 North and 600 North as there are lane restrictions on the right-hand side. Other than that, though, looking like a smooth drive between Ogden and Provo north and southbound. Even on the 201 freeway and I-80 east and west, no major delays. Water belongs in your pipes, not in your yard or on your floor. Call Utah Utility Pro, your leak detection and repair specialists. Water, sewer, main, and gas lines. Utah Utility Pro. UtahUtilityPro.com. Burl Johansson in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today we're looking at a high of 63 degrees with a few more scattered showers. Then we dry out tomorrow and most of Saturday. The next storm system moves in Saturday night, bringing us some rain into Monday. Right now, mostly cloudy, 54 degrees. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
1989 is a memorable year for a lot of different reasons. I was just entering into the news business when I watched with a team of reporters and producers in a newsroom in Phoenix, the Berlin Wall fell. It was also, for those of you who love The Simpsons, the very first episode of The Simpsons aired. The Simpsons. It was also the year that two brothers, Lyle and Eric Menendez, were convicted of murdering their parents in 1989. And this week, something really big happened that probably shocked a lot of people who remember that case. And if you were around in 1989 like I was, and maybe you were in your 20s or 30s, you remember this case out of California. They were sentenced to life without parole at the time. So it was lock them up, throw away the key, there they go. Now this week, a judge has altered that sentence to 50 years to life. And Dave, you have been looking into this for whatever reason. You a few months ago, you became really kind of fixated on this case. And so you're going to help walk us through what in the world happened here.
Yeah, and the reason this spun up, and I guess maybe piqued my interest early on, is Netflix came out with a mini-series. It was a 9-part episode about the Menendez brothers. It was fictionalized, but based on fact. They tried to make it a little bit of a documentary, but it was still just a movie, right? A mini-series. And what happened is that it started this big conversation about, okay, were these guys properly convicted? Should they have been convicted? So this is where I started looking into it. Now, there's so many layers to this that intrigue me. Number one, when this was first done, it was such national news, international news, because it was a gruesome crime. So
walk us through that. And this is probably in need of a little ears warning. So podcast this later, Mom and Dad, if you have little ears in the car, or, you turn the radio down and make sure you stay with us for the 11 o'clock hour. But we always like to give a little ears warning because this is pretty gruesome stuff here.
And in part, I see it through some different eyes. So I want to maybe acknowledge some of my bias here. For years, my family and I, we've been very involved in victims' rights. So whenever crime happens, I immediately start thinking about the victims. And in this case, the victims were the parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, who were murdered by their sons. Their sons have admitted all of this. But I think it's important to kind of remind what happened back in 1989, and then why does the judge basically overturn the sentence that was originally set. Now, as we go back to 1989, let me just walk you through, and I'll try not to be too graphic, but this was not just a crime of passion in the moment. These two brothers had planned this out, and they had gone to several gun stores. They were trying. They had planned this out. They claimed that they were afraid that their parents were going to kill them, so that they were trying to protect themselves. So they went out trying to get guns.
Can I just stop you there? paint a picture of who Jose and Kitty Menendez were and where they all lived at this time when the brothers make this claim that the parents were going to kill them.
Okay, so Jose Menendez was a music executive, very wealthy. He and Kitty, they lived in the big house, very privileged
In
life.
California.
Yeah, in California. And so they're coming from this very successful family. So this is kind of where it gets complicated. The boys claimed that Jose had been abusing them verbally, physically, and sexually over the years. So the defense was, we felt like our lives were in danger because we were going to expose that abuse, and that the parents or the father specifically was going to kill the boys to keep them quiet.
Okay.
So that was their defense. But what happened was the boys, they can't get any handguns, but they keep going to store after store after store. They realize, we're going to just buy shotguns. You don't need a waiting period, so they buy shotguns, 12-gauge shotguns. And then they go into the house. The father and mother, Jose and Kitty, are sitting in the den. They're watching TV, and the boys come in with their shotguns, and essentially they execute their father, Jose, from behind. So he's not turned. They're not engaged. They're not in a fight, but they go in immediately.
He doesn't see it coming.
Doesn't see it coming. The coroner's report describes it as him being shot from behind. And then it sounds like the mother jumps up, tries to run away, and they shoot and kill her. And it wasn't just a shot. They shot her 9 times with shotguns. They shot Jose 4 times from behind, close range. And they admit this to a therapist later on. They end up admitting to this. So what happens immediately afterwards is they call 911. And they say, somebody killed our parents. It looks like a mob-style hit. So they call 911. They don't admit immediately what had happened. They're trying to cover it up. And then they go on this strange spending spree over the next, several days.
That to me is, if the fear is mom and dad or dad is going to kill us, the spending spree to me, it's like, what, so talk about what you know about that.
So after the murders, as police are investigating this, they're out going to luxury hotels, buying Rolex watches, cars, clothes. They hire a personal trainer. In just a matter of days, maybe a few weeks, they spent $700,000. They bought $1 million condo. So they went out there just in the fear, and this is what the prosecution claimed, is that they were afraid that they had been written out of the will from the parents, that they murdered them, and then started spending the money. So
it has been decades since their conviction, and they were sentenced, to life without parole.
Yes.
So they did not get the death penalty, but they got life without parole. And then this brings us to this week, where that life without parole changes.
Yes. So the prosecutor in L.A. decides to re-examine when the Netflix series comes out. Social media says these guys were sexually abused. They were justified. So why are they spending life in prison? And many people, many friends and family came out during this hearing as the judge said, okay, we'll listen to it. Let's listen to the new evidence. And Alex Stone from ABC News in this podcast, Start Here, he said they had a steady stream of family and friends that were vouching for the Menendez brothers.
A former judge who has worked with the Menendez brothers, and he said he was blown away by the incredible men that they have become. And a fellow former inmate who was a fellow inmate who is a rapper who says that in prison they turned his life around to where he was able to get out and that he was able to live a life and have children, and he was quite emotional as well. But many of the family members, when they got up, they said that these are remarkable men one of their cousins saying they are wonderful human beings. She shed tears while she was up there. Many of the family members did.
So family members standing up in court in favor of perhaps the Menendez brothers getting out of prison at some point. But did you find in your research that there's an alternate point of view?
Yeah, a former LA Times reporter, Alan Abramson, he covered the Menendez trials back in the 1990s, and he told the New York Post this. He said, "I think they are two of the most skilled and accomplished liars I have ever met in my life," talking about the Menendez brothers. They're very capable of shape-shifting and being who people want them to be. And I think this is one of the grave dangers of this discussion that people don't seem to be picking up on. And what people are saying is they are not the same people today as they were when they committed these murders. They've changed, they've rehabilitated. And this reporter is saying they are just very skilled liars, and I wouldn't trust what they're saying.
So at this point, they're still in prison, but there is the possibility they may get out and get out soon?
Yes, the parole board is going to be meeting in June, and with time served, it is possible that they are released.
So how do they go from life without the possibility of parole to now having the possibility of getting out of prison? Let's ask KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas to take us inside the case next.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
My car is making this noise. Sometimes it's like doot doot, and sometimes it's like grrr.
Do you have a dash light on?
Oh yeah.
And we don't have to listen for clues. With the free Fix Finder service, we can read a check engine, ABS, or maintenance light to find the likely fix and even recommend a local shop if you need one.
So you don't need to hear the grrr.
Not with Fix Finder. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Get ready for Camping World's Red, White, and New trade event, May 15th through the 18th. Get the highest value for your RV guaranteed during the biggest RV trade event of the year. Shop the best RV deals in America with new RVs starting as low as $92 a month. Get ready for the holiday weekend with up to 45% off grills and 25% off product installation. Plus, we'll have free hats, free propane refills, free food, and fun for the whole family. Don't miss the incredible Red, White, and New trade event, May 15th through the 18th. At your local Camping World.
See you with the full details and disclaimer.
Join KSL in the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1 at the Salt Lake NPS store. That's at 1600 Empire Road in Salt Lake City. NPSstore.com.
At Trio Senior Living, older adults aren't slowing down. They're just getting started. The Prime Fit Wellness program expands wellness beyond the gym into every aspect of community life. Whatever your goals, the team at Trio Senior Living has got your back, so you can put your best foot forward. Call 801-475-4004 today to schedule your personal visit.
If you've got a honey-do list with electrical, plumbing, heating, or air conditioning projects on it, Any Hour Services can help. Call Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air. anyhourservices.com.
Dave and Dujanovic.
It was decades ago that two brothers, Lyle and Eric Menendez, were convicted of murdering their parents, Kitty and Jose, in their own home. Dave just laid out the details, the timeline of the case. And now we're going to talk to Greg Skordas in just a moment about how it is that two convicted murderers who got a sentence, life without parole, just basically had that sentence reduced to 50 years to life, which gives them the opportunity to qualify for parole.
And part of what has stood out to me during this story is they have a lot of people that have been willing to vouch for them, saying that they've changed over the last 30 plus years, that they're not the people today that they were then. But my mind immediately goes to the victims themselves, their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, and they were killed brutally in a vicious manner. And it is interesting to hear family members that are saying, we forgive them, we've moved on, we think they should be released. It almost ignores the fact that there were two victims in my thoughts. Are you ignoring the two victims that were so brutally murdered and reversing this sentence 35 years later? Greg Skordas is joining us right now, KSL legal analyst. Greg, what stands out to you? Does this mean that they could possibly be paroled soon?
It does. They were given a sentence of life without the possibility of parole, and they've done about 30 years. They were both, I think, in their late 20s. They're both, I think, 55, 57 right now. 30 years is a long time, and you said it best, Dave, a minute ago when you said they're not the same people. Nonetheless, the law was, at the time they were sentenced, life without parole. There's been a lot that has occurred, like you talked about, with respect to their behavior in prison. The fact that sort of times have changed a little bit, and there's even been some more follow-up on the underlying cause of what they did, whether or not their parents may have been abusive in some respects. So the state of California has now decided to change their sentence to life with the possibility of parole. I think it's like a 50 to life or something like that, which means they are eligible for parole even today, probably.
So, Greg, you've been in far more trials and, sentencing hearings than I have been. And I know Dave has done a lot in terms of victims' rights and a lot of advocacy work. And so maybe he sees this too. This is a discussion that gets had a lot when it comes to parole hearings, that family members or friends step up and vouch for people who've committed very heinous acts and say, oh, they've changed, and they're good people now. And if they just get a second chance, they will, show that they can do good for society. We hear that a lot. And so I think that's more of a common argument for letting people out. I just wonder, do we just kind of forgive and forget over the course of 30 plus years about these victims and what heinous act was spewed upon them?
Yeah, in some respects we do, Debbie. And maybe I've been a defense attorney too long, but to me, 30 years is a significant sentence. I mean, it's more than half of their lives. And maybe there comes a time when we at least give them the chance to go prove that they can do something else. And again, that doesn't say anything about what the victims' other family members have suffered and friends losing this couple. And it was a double homicide, and it was gruesome. It was, I think they used a shotgun and just went in blazing and killed both of their parents. That certainly warrants a significant prison sentence. But to me, 30 years is a significant prison sentence. I would also say this. It's unlikely that the governor of California is just going to commute their sentence and say, okay, you guys can go home now. He may decide, let's revisit it in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. He may also put them on parole now. But what has happened here doesn't necessarily mean that they will be released. It just means they can be released.
Greg, I find it interesting, and we've seen this happen a couple of times where these true crime podcasts come out, or maybe it's a mini series that's fictionalized. It gins up support, or it gets these cases back into the conversation. Does it concern you at all that these come out to the public, and now all of a sudden the public, because they watched 9 hours of a series, feels like they're experts? When this was tried in a court of law, that you had a prosecutor and you had a defense with, thousands of hours, man hours, maybe tens of thousands, where everyone had their chance to make their case. And now it almost feels like it can be undone with a sprucely produced miniseries.
Yeah, you're right. And I can understand that. It can also be undone with subsequent evidence like DNA or other findings. I mean, I think the system works best when it's fluid and when it can revisit what it has done and sort of take into account whether or not and to what extent justice is served after 3 decades, after new evidence may or may not be coming out. I mean, I've never been a fan of just these mandatory sentences where you just lock them up and throw away the key. It doesn't take into account or give anybody any incentive to do well in prison or to better themselves and hope that there is some future for them. So I can see both sides to this. My guess is that they're not going to be released anytime soon, but should they be? Could they be? I think that people should at least have that opportunity to revisit that for them.
No. How far does good behavior go in prison in terms of qualifying somebody for parole? I always wonder about that, and I wonder if it's, it's all measured, equally, or it's just. So talk a little bit about that, Greg.
Yeah,
because they're saying that they were just pretty much model prisoners, right? I mean, that's
and that's
claim.
obvious. Sure, that's obviously subjective on the part of the prison authorities. I mean, they could have been, they could have just kept their heads down and not done much at all. Maybe they helped other inmates by reading for them or being involved in activities. Maybe they got college degrees while they were there. I mean, people can better themselves in prison, and we do want to encourage that. Good behavior should be encouraged. We often look in the federal system and say, well, if you have good behavior, you'll serve 85% of your term, which is still a lot, but it's a break that you get 15% of your sentence if you do well. So I think doing well, being a model prisoner should be rewarded in some respect, and it is in most systems. But when you have a life without the possibility of parole, it doesn't seem to give you much incentive to do that.
That's a good point. Okay. Greg, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your insights as always. Greg Skordas, our KSL legal analyst on the Menendez brothers and the developments that happened this week regarding their sentences.
And no question, 35 years is a long time in prison. But when they murdered their parents, which they have admitted to, Jose Menendez, Kitty Menendez, they were younger than I am right now. They were 45 years old, 47 years old. It's very likely that they would be alive today, that they would have lived these last 35 years of their life. Just because they are flawed. And I'm not even questioning these brothers who claim that they were verbally, physically, and sexually abused for years. That's why we go to the police. It's why we turn them in. It's why we leave. There's options other than to go in and gun them down with shotguns in such a gruesome way. But it's interesting to watch how the court system, the justice system is evolving and changes from decade to decade.
Many people worry they're not making the right investment choices inside their 401ks. Did you know that you might have a little-known opportunity to add some additional investment choices to your 401k and get the help and recommendations you've been looking for? This exciting feature is called a self-directed brokerage window. And the best part? The money still stays within your 401k. Learn how the trusted advisors at Capital Wealth may be able to expand your investment portfolio. To learn more, call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Improving your 401k might mean the difference of retiring a few years earlier. Let's find out. Schedule your no-cost 15-minute consultation with the Capital Wealth team today. Call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
Spring is here, and so is the Sutherland Spring Spectacular Sale. Are you ready to transform your garden into a vibrant oasis? Head to Sutherland's right now for unbeatable deals on all your favorite plants. Get ready to hang gorgeous 10-inch promo hanging baskets, regularly $19.99, now slashed to $9.99. Annuals that delight with color. Sutherland's has a 4-pack of annuals regularly priced at $2.99, now only $1.59. Plant more, spend less with Sutherland's. Looking to grow your own veggies? Sutherland's 4-inch vegetables, normally $5.99, are now just $3.99. Start your garden today with savings in every pot. And don't miss Sutherland's stunning 1-gallon geraniums, regularly $9.99, now only $4.44. Come on down to Sutherland's for the Spring Spectacular Sale. These offers are bloomin' wonderful, but they won't last long. Visit your local Sutherland store today and make your spring spectacular. We'll see you at Sutherland's.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does your job require you to be on your feet all day? Teachers, postal carriers, salespeople, and restaurant staff. Many of us need our feet to get us through the day. Hi, this is Mike with the Good Feet store, and I'd like you to hear from Donna. She's a nurse and a real customer of the Good Feet store who wanted to share her story.
Oh, I have to tell you, I have struggled with pain in my feet. I was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis. With the 3-step program, it really fits to your lifestyle. I work in a hospital. I'm a registered nurse, so being on my feet, walking throughout the hospital during the day, I am free from any type of pain. And after working a 12-hour shift, I go home and my feet do not hurt.
Whether you're a nurse or anyone wanting to enjoy work without your feet getting in the way, come see us at the Good Feet store.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Schedule your free test walk at goodfeet.com.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
I'm Sia and I support Humane World for Animals, formerly called the Humane Society of the United States. Together, we have created a new version of Peter Gabriel's beautiful song, Salisbury Hill, to celebrate Humane World for Animals and everything they do. Enjoy the song and join us in helping Humane World for Animals end animal cruelty.
People think saving money is hard, but really, it's easy. It's as simple as changing a few spending habits. For free tips on how to save the easy way, check out feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top story this hour. A man who's been on Utah's death row for decades is going to get a new trial. The Utah Supreme Court has ruled Douglas Carter should have a new trial for the murder of Eva Olson in 1985. The justices ruled the state violated Carter's right to due process by failing to disclose police and prosecutor misconduct in the case, including encouraging witnesses to lie or make false statements. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments this morning in a challenge to President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson pushed back against the idea that the courts are on the Trump administration's side.
Your argument seems to turn our justice system, in my view at least, into a catch-me-if-you-can kind of regime from the standpoint of the executive, where everybody has to have a lawyer and file a lawsuit in order for the government to stop violating people's rights.
A ruling in the case could come any time between now and the end of June. Walmart is the latest company to say prices are going to go up because of tariffs. Mattel and Microsoft's Xbox have also said they expect future price hikes. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 190 points. Coming up, we get a break in the rain, but not for long. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Hit it. It's time to spring into summer with Soda Weight Loss, because right now you'll get our biggest discount of the year.
Are you serious?
Yeah!
Just 3 weeks in, and the pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight. Without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself. My body did exactly what it wanted to do. I just gave it its tools.
Let's spring into summer right now with Soda Weight Loss. If you want to look like this for summer, now is the time to join America's #1 weight loss company for client satisfaction and results.
Remember, this is our best offer of the year, so let's go.
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. And let's face it, it's time to update the look of your home's exterior. When was that thing built? In the 50s, 70s, 90s, the 2000s? Well, it's looking like it. Faded siding, drafty windows, leaky gutters. It's time to take action now. RGS Exteriors has been taking Utah homes from drab to fab for over 5 generations. We only use the highest quality materials, like James Hardy siding and gutter topper gutter covers. You will be blown away by how much different and better and awesome your house can look. Your neighbors will be jealous, your home value will go up, and most of all, you're going to love it. Everything we do comes with our industry-leading 10-year everything guarantee, so you can sleep like a baby, knowing if anything goes wrong, you're 100% covered. For a free estimate on your gutters, windows, siding, or anything on your outside of your home, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's rgsutah.com.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
My car is making this noise. Sometimes it's like doot doot, and sometimes it's like grrr.
Do you have a dash light on?
Oh yeah.
Then we don't have to listen for clues. With the free Fix Finder service, we can read a check engine, ABS, or maintenance light to find the likely fix and even recommend a local shop if you need one.
So you don't need to hear the grrr.
Not with Fix Finder. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Get ready for Camping World's Red, White, and New trade event, May 15th through the 18th. Get the highest value for your RV guaranteed during the biggest RV trade event of the year. Shop the best RV deals in America with new RVs starting as low as $92 a month. Get ready for the holiday weekend with up to 45% off grills and 25% off product installation. Plus, we'll have free hats, free propane refills, free food, and fun for the whole family. Don't miss the incredible Red, White, and New trade event, May 15th through the 18th at your local Camping World.
See with the full details and disclaimer.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's homegrown home loans. Let's check in with Earl Johansson.
We've got some slick roads up in Box Elder and Cache counties due to some isolated showers. Those showers could make their way south and add on to delays that we're already seeing in Salt Lake City. Southbound I-15, there is a right lane restriction causing traffic to really get bogged down between 1100 North and 600 North. Once you get past that 600 North, though, it looks to be moving much more freely. Save up to 20% when you bring a group of 10 or more, or subscribe to design a series with 3+ concerts that match your vibe. Tickets at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org. Earl Johansson in the KSL Traffic Center.
We could see a little more rain later today, but it clears out overnight. Tomorrow, drier but cloudy with a high of 68. More rain moves in Saturday night. Right now, it's mostly cloudy, 56 degrees in downtown Salt Lake City. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. America's top political story. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, the Democratic Party. They're sparring about how old is too old. And this is all based on an Axios article. Dave, I think you caught this article online, so we're going to talk about it. It's curious to me how many older, shall we say, Democratic lawmakers back in D.C. insist that they're going to be running again in the next election cycle. But it's a significant number. And so what this has prompted is a discussion between the younger Democrats, the youth of the party, and the party veterans. How old is too old? So let's chat about it.
And in part because this is not just a Democrat thing. Republicans have the exact same issue, but this article from Axios says, listen, there's 30 House Democrats that are over 75 years old. 30. Half of them say they're going to run again. And that's where the conversation goes into, all right, well, if you're not going to limit yourself, if you're not going to age out yourself, then should we do it for you? Because that's the struggle you and I have had, Debbie. We've been talking about this for the past 7 years, this very topic. What do we do about this? Right now, it's just up to the voters. If you think someone's too old, then you just vote for somebody else. Or should there be some sort of age limit or term limit?
Right. You got to primary them. or you got to try to primary them. If that's what you feel, if you're the youth of the party and you feel like you are tomorrow's hope, then you better get to work today. But that's hard because, re-election coffers are huge. And so if you're coming into this game new, even if you're a fresh set of eyes with new ideas, that might not matter. You don't have the money to go against somebody by the name of like Maxine Waters, who's 86 years old, Rosa DeLauro, who's 82 years old. How about Representative Doris Matsui, 80 years old? Bonnie Watson Coleman, 80 years old. I mean, some of these folks have been serving in Congress for a really, really long time. So voters might say, yeah, we want fresh eyes. But the reality is, when they open up their ballot, they get cold feet.
And the age is so interesting because Chuck Grassley, who's the oldest senator right now, Chuck Grassley is 91 years old. He still has three more years remaining till 2028. That makes him 94 at the time that he's up for re-election. He's already filed to run again. He'd be 94 years old.
He's getting out in front
it would
of
carry him to 100 years old.
He's got goals.
He's got goals. I'm gonna make it.
Yeah. We can sit here and talk about ageism, term limits, all we want, but the reality for some of these representatives is that they've got a lot of spunk left. I want you to listen to a recent interaction that Representative Rosa DeLauro of Connecticut, 82 years old, with purple hair at this hearing. Her hair is like dyed purple. She's hip. She's going after RFK Jr.
Will you commit to spending the money that is in 2024 in that budget?
As I said, Ranking Member, if you appropriate the money, I'm going to spend that money.
The money has been appropriated. So the answer to that is if you're not willing to accept the funds that have been lawfully voted.
She's got spunk and she has experience. She's been back in Congress for a really long time. And that's what my point is, that voters will get cold feet when it comes to a younger candidate, even though the youth of the party is rising up and saying we need new blood here. Let's get some younger, more youthful candidates on the ballot. It's really tough when you're talking about somebody who's got spunk and who has the money to win another election.
But at the same time, we've also elected people that are not capable of doing the job any longer. Or they have diminished capacity. We saw this with President Biden. We saw President Biden in just those 4 years. It was incredible to watch the debate performance when he was running in 2020, and then what happened in 2024. It was night and day. Just over a short number of years, it was totally different. We saw Senator Dianne Feinstein. Let me play a little bit, because you showed a great example of spunk. Well, she was being asked, yes, no, vote.
Yay,
yes,
nay.
no,
Yay, nay.
nay. Which one do you want? And she goes off the rails and starts giving a speech, and you will hear her staff saying, just say yes. Just say aye.
Call the roll.
Senator Feinstein.
Say aye.
Pardon me?
Aye.
Yeah.
Just say
I would like to support a yes vote on this. It provides $823 billion.
Yeah, just say aye.
Okay, just Great, aye.
Thank you.
And you hear a little nervous laughter, but that's what's scary. And Father Time is undefeated. So at some point we need to look at it and say, we're not being ageist, we're being realistic. But at the same time, ageism, it's an arbitrary number, because what would be too old? Is it 75 years old? Is it 77? Is it 81? What does that number look like?
Yeah. Well, it's a risk when you put younger candidates on the ballot that you'll lose that election. And then what happens to the makeup of the House? You might lose a majority. So I think, there's a lot that goes into this beyond, it's just an age limit or it's a term limit. It's a matter of winning and losing. And what party wants to give up a majority in either chamber because they're like, they were too old. I think we need term limits. Nobody wants to give up power. That's just how it is.
What's difficult as well is we are totally fine with putting limits and being ageist when it comes to the young. We tell the young, you can't vote until you're 18. You can't run for the House until you're 25. You can't run for the Senate until you're 30. Don't even think about the presidency until you're 35. So we're fine with being ageist to the young, but we won't to the old.
Representative Tyler Clancy, thought it would be great to have you in on this conversation. You do a lot of work up on Utah's Capitol Hill, so not too far removed from D.C., right?
That's right, just a couple miles west of D.C.
Yeah, so when we were having this discussion before the show, I said, I seem to remember we had a really young representative elected to office not too long ago, and our producer Caitlin pulled up this story, and it's you. It was you. So you began your legislative service just back in 2023, 25 years old at the time. Now you're the ripe young age of 28, right?
That's right. I'm getting much older as the gray hairs are starting to come in.
Yeah,
so.
I remember when I was 28, 30 years ago. Just give us your overview, your thoughts when we have discussion about, the youth of the party, even though this is the Democratic Party we're talking about, maybe wanting to get a foothold back in D.C.
Well, I certainly think there's room for all voices, right? For me, I appreciate serving alongside colleagues who have more wisdom and more experience than me, who have been around, more than one session and more than one term. That experience is valuable. But like you said, Debbie, it's also valuable to have young voices at the table too, who can provide diverse perspectives on everything from, the cost of living, the cost of housing, and not just here in the Wasatch Front, but across the country when you're talking about D.C. And so for me, I really take an all-the-above approach. I think it's important to have a range of voices at the table making these decisions.
Do you think it's appropriate to have age limits? And I think for you, obviously, the age limits are on the low end of when we allow people to run, but would it be appropriate to have age limits on the top end?
I'm old-fashioned in the sense that I really think we look at some of these structural reforms as what's going to bail us out. And, that clip of Senator Feinstein's staff telling her, vote yes, vote yes. I mean, it's hard to listen to, hard to watch.
Yes.
But I think ultimately it comes down to what you and Debbie mentioned earlier, that it's up to us, as voters to be civically engaged enough to say, I'd actually prefer a senator who is 100% there and vote for someone who's really engaged and deep in my community. And so I think we can look at some of those reforms, but at the end of the day, it's about civic engagement. And the more civic engagement we have, I think we'll see a reflection at the ballot box as well.
We're talking live right now to Representative Tyler Clancy, Utah State Representative Tyler Clancy, about this debate in the Democratic Party. It's like the youth versus the veterans. The youth would like to see some fresh eyes and some fresh ears back in Washington, D.C., and so we thought it would be appropriate to have somebody on the young side call the show and walk us through what it's like to be elected at such a young age. And I want you to walk us back, to that time when you told maybe your family or friends, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Like you got your kitchen cabinet together, Representative, and said, let me bounce this off of you. How old were you when you made that decision? And then how difficult or how easy was it to launch a campaign and be taken seriously?
Well, I was 25 when I decided to run in the special election here in Provo. And you mentioned getting that kitchen cabinet together, a close group of family and friends and advisors of life, really.
Yeah.
And there was definitely pros and cons, but I think what we talked about was, well, even if I run and I lose, maybe I'll move the needle on some of these key issues that are really important to, folks who are my age. As I knocked doors and pounded the pavement in that campaign, age really didn't come up in the sense of a barrier. Rather, people said, well, I appreciate that you're out here at, 6, 7, 8 p.m. knocking doors and you're back at 6 a.m. That's the kind of person I want working for me up at the Capitol. And so for me, it actually became an asset because people saw how engaged I was and the energy I was able to bring to the race. And luckily, I was able to come out on top. But I think it's also interesting, too, that we look at the demographics of our state. Here in House District 60 in Provo, the average age of a resident here in Provo is 26 years old. So it just in my House district. And so I think there are young people out there, too, who are looking for individuals who can go out and be a voice to talk about the issues that are facing young people today.
One of the things that jumps to my mind is just how complicated legislation is. Just whether you're working on the Hill or in D.C., I remember talking to one state senator that said, I'm going to be honest, it took me at least 4 or 5 years to really get my feet under me because the system can be so complicated, so nuanced. Getting up to speed takes time. Have we just created such a complicated system that it requires seniority and multiple terms to truly become effective?
Such a good point. And for me, I felt motivated by that when recognizing that I was younger, recognizing coming in, in a special election prior to the session. To me, it just motivated me to work that much harder to make sure I was prepared for every committee hearing. I was prepared for floor votes and different things like that. I think that people look at representatives or state senators, especially on the state level, and say, oh, they're kind of an individual out there. But when we go up to the Capitol, for me, it's really a team effort. It's the folks who, my neighbors and friends and family around here who in Provo, who we work together on the issues. I'm bouncing ideas off of my constituents, reaching out to community leaders here in Utah County to say, how would this bill impact you? Would you be able to read through this for me? This is what I'm seeing. What are you seeing? And so for me, that's really motivated me to be more prepared, but also lean on the folks who do have that wisdom and the experience and that subject matter expertise, because we can't be an expert on everything. And so it's a little bit all over the place at times, but it's, as you mentioned, very important issues that we're working on.
Just before we let you go, do you think money's a barrier for younger generation to get involved in politics? Because you need money to run an effective campaign, and in most cases you need a lot of money.
I think that it can be a barrier, certainly when it comes to federal races. When you're looking at the types of money, especially the United States Senate race here in Utah, I think was one of the most expensive races in our state's history. But I think on the local level, people really respond to grassroots energy and effort. I talked to a couple people who are campaign consultants. Obviously, I couldn't pay them, but I was trying to get some free advice and talked about social media or different graphics. I can tell you without a doubt, the number one most effective strategy in my campaign was to knock on every single door, meeting people where they're at, listening more than I speak. That's what my dad used to tell me.
Oh, yeah.
2 ears, 1 mouth rule.
Yeah.
and hearing what mattered to the folks who were in my neighborhood. And that really had an impact, I think.
Representative Clancy, thanks for joining us. State Representative Tyler Clancy began his service in the state legislature at the age of 25, Utah's youngest lawmaker.
I think he points out a number of things that are really effective. One is the listen to learn approach. Not the listen to, then respond and talk over somebody. The listen to learn approach is awesome. And since maybe he's younger, he remembers his dad's advice because, we tend to forget things over the years. But I like that. I like the listen to learn approach. I also very much appreciate the younger voices reminding us, older folk like myself, what it's like for them. Because I'm so far removed from my 28-year-old self, which he's now 28. I forget. He brought something up during the discussion that it reminded me. It's like, he went up to Capitol Hill and he really was paying, very, very close attention, wanting to learn all the details, and it took me back to my early reporting days when I was working at Channel 4 News here. It was my second reporting job, but it was like I was all in on my career. And back then, and probably to some extent now, It's how we get wired, But back then, I knew, being, I believe, the youngest television news reporter in the market at the time, at the age of 23, I had to come in, hit the ground running, and every single day that I appeared on television and leading up to my live reports, I had to prove myself. And for a long time, I was called the rookie of the organization, and that bothered me because I felt like I had so much more to offer. So it bothered me, but then it also motivated me to continue to prove myself. And the reason I say that is because I think, looking back on that, there was no comfort level for me back then. I wasn't, locked and loaded, batteries recharged every single day. I needed to prove myself. It was like a fresh start every single day. And I think that's what the younger generation brings to conversations like this, whether it is, in public service or in private business. So, but the Democrats the younger Democrats looking for ways to get perhaps the older veterans unseated.
And they're getting a huge amount of pushback. In fact, the Democratic National Committee brought in or voted in a vice chair, David Hogg. And David Hogg said, I'm going to primary senior Democrats. And they are trying to remove him from his post. They are putting rules in place that say you cannot run against or you cannot campaign against other Democrats. We're focusing on Republicans. But it's interesting, when this change starts to happen from someone young, and David Hogg is in his 20s, when they try to change the system the way it's been working, you get the pushback, obviously, because you have a bunch of senior members that are comfortable with the way it works right now because they're the ones that are winning.
Can we shift the discussion to a video that went viral? Representative Blake Moore caught snoozing on camera.
Mr. Moore.
Bueller.
Mr. Moore.
Bueller.
I want to talk about this. Look, head forward. I don't know if he was snoring or not, but who hasn't fallen asleep on the job out of pure exhaustion? But, there's so much more to this story, and don't take a nap. We're coming right back.
The main character in every news story is a real person.
I want people who listen to Midday to listen to the show and think it is about them. They're hearing a story that touches them in some way.
The main character in every news story is you.
Whether it is their pocketbook, whether it is their child's safety, people should hear something that is more thought-provoking.
Midday with Maria Chaleos. All new noon to 3 on KSL News Radio.
Let me tell you guys a little bit about Renaissance Ranch, because if you have a family member that is struggling with addiction, you may not know what to do. How can I help? What's putting too much effort in and what's not putting in enough effort? What's that perfect balance? Well, Renaissance Ranch wants to help you answer some of those questions.
And they want to do it for free. It's free, which is not only the best part of this. I mean, there's a lot of great things to this, but it's truly like you can just get on a Zoom call, essentially, and learn from the experts. And you do not have to have a family member enrolled in the Renaissance Ranch program to join these conversations. And these classes that they offer, again, for free, are taught from a spousal perspective, a parent's perspective, even a personal perspective.
Thousands of people attend these over the months, and the reason they offer this is because research has shown when family members, when loved ones are involved in the recovery process, the chance of a positive outcome skyrockets.
Renaissance Ranch, faith-based and clinically proven for more than 20 years.
Find these free online classes open to the public at renaissanceranch.com. That's renaissanceranch.com.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
Do you currently use a CPAP machine to treat sleep apnea? Are you looking for a smaller, more comfortable solution? Consider a custom-fitted oral appliance from Sound Sleep Medical. In many cases, these appliances can be as effective as CPAP, and oral appliances are usually covered by insurance or Medicare. To make an appointment or to learn more, call Sound Sleep Medical at 801-285-9731. That's 801-285-9731, or visit soundsleepmedical.com.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top local story this hour. Just over a dozen homes have been evacuated as a precaution in Lehigh after Enbridge Gas reported high levels of natural gas inside one of those homes. They've shut the gas off and are waiting for it to dissipate so the gas company can get back in. A Tooele man has been charged with cruelty to animals, accused of shooting and killing 2 dogs in his home while high on LSD. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson reports.
Police were called by a woman who told dispatchers she was worried about Marcus Fritz hurting himself. She told police when they arrived that he was inside with guns and they had been using LSD. Now, in the home, police found bullet holes in both the floor and ceiling, and they found 2 large dead dogs. They say Fritz, he started crying when they asked him what had happened.
Fritz is also accused of having weapons, which would be illegal because of past crimes. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Americans are buying a lot less imported goods. The new retail sales numbers for April show people stocked up in March, expecting higher prices in April when they stopped spending nearly as much. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 178 points at this hour. Coming up, looks like we're going to get some more rain over the weekend. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Do you need new windows? Look, all glass pretty much looks the same to the naked eye, but if your windows aren't triple-coated, argon-filled and sealed double-pane glass, the cold is seeping in. You need to call Advanced Window Products. They use the highest quality glass and premium vinyl to create state-of-the-art windows and frames, and for 38 years, they build those frames right here in Utah. Custom crafted for Utah's climate. The best windows you can buy at prices 30 and 40% less than what the big companies charge because they cut out the middleman. They're the factory. They even give you a lifetime warranty. And right now, as we head into spring, save an extra $2,500 off 10 windows or more. Custom windows that'll give your house a fresh new look and save you money on your heating and air conditioning. Advanced Windows offers 60-month 0% financing, even buy now, pay later, and an extra $2,500 off. Call for a quote. 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Homegrown Home Loans. Here's Ricky Meese.
It is a delay-free drive on your Valley freeways, but we do have a crash in West Valley with injuries northbound Redwood Road to go eastbound on the 21st South Freeway. It's blocking a right lane on that ramp. Whether you park it, stripe it, or pave it, GoPave Utah has your blacktop covered at gopavutah.com. That's gopavutah.com. Call or visit gopavutah.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We still have a chance for a thunderstorm or some showers this afternoon, but it should clear out overnight, and tomorrow we'll have partly cloudy skies and a high of 68. Then Saturday night, the rain starts back up again, lasting into Monday. Right now, mostly cloudy and 56 degrees. I'm Becky Bruce from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Congressman?
Hey, buddy. How you doing? You sleepy? So sleepy.
Sorry. All right, I have to say, before we even get started with this, been there, done that. Been there, done that. We're going to talk about Congressman Blake Moore early yesterday morning, caught on camera in the House Ways and Means Committee snoozing.
Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore.
I'm sorry. I totally can relate to this. And who can't? I mean, come on. We're going to fess up to snoozing on the job and take your live phone calls in just a few minutes at 801-575-TALK.
The video is absolutely unbelievable. It's fantastic because it was like C-SPAN was just setting this up. Like, very good job by the photographer. It's like, we're in the middle of voting right now. I see Representative Moore absolutely pass out. He's totally asleep. I'm going to zoom in right on him. And they're like, Bueller. And he is just out. He is just so asleep. And one of his colleagues has to lean over and kind of nudge him. And he just
Mr. Moore, no.
Yeah, I mean, he can't. There he goes. They're like waking him up.
Mr. Moore, no.
You caught me.
Okay, so in fairness to Representative Blake Moore, this was a marathon hearing. Ugh. Like, you know, I just, my first reaction is, why are we, like, 15-hour hearing or something like that? It went on and on and on. It had actually started the day before. It just went on forever and a day, and I can't blame him for finally falling asleep. What, like at 5 o'clock in the morning or something like that?
Yes, they've been working all day, all night. Everyone is just droning on, talking. He's not the only one that fell asleep. Debbie Dingell fell asleep. Jen Szyszkowski fell asleep as well, but he was the one that was caught on camera.
Bueller.
Totally how it felt.
Bueller.
He shared his reaction to this power nap. Thankfully, I saw an email yesterday. One of his spokespeople had emailed the newsroom and probably other news organizations. Like, he's going to talk about it.
Everybody dozed off in a 17-hour meeting before. I mean, you go to church for 1 hour and you doze off. So, like, the fact that my wife was already the first one to sort of, like, give me a hard time about it, I don't take myself too seriously. And you could see when my colleague woke me up, when she nudged me, and like immediately started laughing because I go, oh no, there's going to be a camera somewhere. All my other colleagues were in the back room dozing off. They just were smart enough not to do it on camera.
You can fall asleep. You just can't get caught. And you got caught.
You know, a quick little power nap to get me through. A significantly important piece of legislation. We've been working on this for probably over a year to get this to the right spot. And it was actually fascinating to get to go through the debate process and get all the text released and a chance to get this out of markup. And we wrapped up about 8 a.m. this morning.
And listen, there's times when we have meetings that just drag on forever and ever. I've never been in a 25-hour marathon of a meeting or 31 hours. These things are absurd. Of course you're going to fall asleep. There's no chance. Like, you can only live on Red Bull for so long.
Well, and the power nap is spectacular, too. I wonder how long he slept for before he was busted. Because to me, anything more than 20 minutes, you're doomed for the next night's sleep, no matter how many hours in a row you're awake. But was also fascinating to me, okay, I'm going to digress a little bit, is how his head is like positioned. Like the head bob when you fall asleep during a nap, like and you're sitting up, it's impossible to like predict where your head is going to end. And isn't it like kind of coupled over? It reminds me of when my children would fall asleep when they were babies and I was feeding them in the high chair and you turn around at nap time, after, heating up the mashed peas and you try to, and their head, we're like, we're not doing that. We're not letting the head go in that direction. It's how I fall asleep on airplanes too. It's like, and then you realize you're asleep and you wake up and your head and your neck is never the same for the rest of the day. That's kind of what that reminded me of. But then there's another lawmaker whose head is clearly like way back.
Back into the left. Just
way out. Back. Have you ever fallen asleep on the job?
Okay, so yes, I have. I will admit it, and it was bad timing. It was bad timing. So I used to work a swing shift, so I'd come in at 3 o'clock and then work until 11 o'clock in news editing. This is when I first started out my career.
Not here.
No, I was an editor, and anyway, the morning editor ends up calling in sick. I draw the unlucky, straw, so I've got to pull a double, an overnight shift. So I am running the show at 7 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, and my job was to play the stories. So if there was any video that was playing on the morning newscast, they would say, hey, roll alpha, beta, cat. All right, and that was my job, is I just had to hit play, play, play. The director would call for it.
Are you in a room by yourself?
I am in a room all by myself.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I mean, I am a lone man on an island. I am absolutely passive. I'm so tired.
Bone tired?
Bone tired. I fall asleep. In the middle of the newscast, I fall asleep.
What did your head do?
It's straight down. Just like chin on the chest.
I needed to hear
I am
that.
so it is cuddly. I couldn't be more comfortable. I am out. I'm probably dreaming at this point. And then the director is shouting, roll beta, roll beta, Dave. And then I wake up and I hit play. But yeah, it was everybody, anchors, reporters, the entire control room. Everyone's waiting on me to roll beta.
Did you feel better after that quick cat nap?
No. Well, that's not true. The adrenaline rush that just spiked. I was wide awake for the rest of the show.
We're celebrating Representative Blake Moore's cat nap during a committee hearing. He just fell asleep. And then his colleague next to him had to nudge him awake.
Mr. Moore, no.
I mean, this was a moment where they were calling out for him to vote.
Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore.
Caitlin Johnston, our producer, you were telling us a story this morning in the morning meeting. I mean, it seems like everybody has a story about falling asleep on the job. Can you share that story with us right now? Because it is hilarious in a lot of ways. And, I know you just were working a lot of jobs and you were going to school.
Middle of college.
Yeah.
Working early. But yeah, I worked a job where basically I listened to phone calls and I had to translate them through my voice, and it would just print out the words. But it can get really boring, especially when it's 5 a.m. or I would work late nights. It's just repetitive, so I would often doze off, and then it shows it's not good. Don't sleep on the job, because then it like messes up the words. But it would happen regularly. So it was just a job I was working with in college. But
so you would be
often,
listening to phone calls, and then you would have to type in,
just speak with your
just speak
voice,
to translate them, and then you would just nod off,
doze off, and it happened all the time. Every single day almost. And I was not the only one. That was a job that it's so quiet in there. It's a great place to sleep. Eventually, if when they notice, people like your manager will like overlook your calls and see if things are not, going out correctly. So yeah, I got spoken to about it. I didn't lose my job or anything because of that. But it happens, and I was not the only one. But it was very easy to fall asleep in a very quiet environment where you just listen to phone calls.
Yeah, that would just be like, it would, if you're doing it at 5 o'clock in the morning after being up all night or having to get up that early, that would just be exhausting. I could see. So could you tell from the translation that you were starting to kind of
when the words don't make sense after that's my job, is literally to translate it accurately. So you start slurring words because you're falling asleep.
You just pass out.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I never fell quite asleep, but it was just a doze off, and it messes
your head just bob down?
I have done that, unfortunately.
I just think the head bob
like whiplash.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm not awake. I'm not asleep. I'm not. Wait, what's going on? Where am I? What am I doing? That's the thing, is when you fall asleep, then you're suddenly awakened. You're a little bit disoriented, but Blake Moore knew totally what happened. As soon as he woke up, he's like, oh, I'm so busted. He just starts laughing at himself.
It was funny, but let's share our stories. When did you fall asleep on the job? 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. We're going to take your live calls. I've got my story, too, straight ahead.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Chartway is a $3 billion credit union that serves 260,000 members through its new business banking services and $16 million in grants by the Chartway Promise Foundation. Chartway is making a community impact. Senior Vice President of Utah, Nick Whiting, joins us with more.
We're proud of the Chartway Promise Foundation, our charitable arm dedicated to supporting medically fragile children and their families. This year we mark a milestone, 20 years of bringing joy, hope, and smiles to children through memorable experiences. Whether it's granting a child's wish, providing hospital care packages, or partnering with local nonprofits, this month you can make a difference by joining us at a series of fundraising and awareness events. Learn more at chartwaypromisefoundation.org. In addition to the foundation, Chartway also serves the small business community with a full range of business banking services. From cash management and merchant services to online wire transfers, business checking, and lending, Chartway helps businesses grow and thrive. Additionally, we've earned the Juntos Avanzamos designation and now have 3 bilingual branches in Utah to better serve the Hispanic community. Bottom line, at Chartway Credit Union, everyone is welcome.
As a growing credit union with a strong community commitment, Chartway is further expanding its footprint in Utah by adding a new branch in Harriman later this year, bringing its total number of branches in the state to 14. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
It's hard to believe, but summer's right around the corner. Make sure your home stays cool with a brand new air conditioner and get a free furnace for next winter. That's right. When you purchase a premium air conditioner or heat pump from Whipple Service Champions, you'll get a brand new furnace absolutely free. You just pay for the labor to install. This deal won't last long. Schedule your free estimate today. Book online at whipplethataway.com. whipplethataway.com.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Representative Blake Moore caught on camera during a House Ways and Means Committee meeting, hearing, dozing off.
Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore.
So busted with cameras on him.
But who hasn't fallen asleep on the job at some point? And in fairness to him, this is a marathon hearing. I mean, it went on and on and on. I think it started at 2 o'clock the day before, and this is 5 o'clock in the morning. Who wouldn't be passed out exhausted?
Totally.
Bone tired.
This is absolutely understandable. In fact, I actually think there's a lot of businesses and companies out there that pretend like we're robots, that we don't need to eat and sleep and use the restroom. Like it's just this expectation like, oh, you're fine. Oh, this is 17 straight hours. That's fine. Stay awake. Pay attention.
Healthline.com says going 24 hours without sleep, the side effects include drowsiness, irritability, that's a big one for me, impaired decision-making, impaired judgment, altered perception, memory deficits, vision and hearing impairments, decreased hand-eye coordination, increased muscle tension, tremors, increased risk of accidents and near misses. So that gets to be serious business. But like after 24 hours, we start to slur our words. I think the longest somebody has intentionally gone without sleep, I think the world record is like 11 days.
Ooh.
That's
healthy.
Wild. What's your story? When did you fall asleep at work? 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. Let's get to the phone lines.
I love this one from our texter. I fell asleep in the middle of playing a duet with a piano student. That's amazing. Like you're in the middle of harmonizing on the piano. You're like, I'm out. In the middle of the duet.
That's I want great. That texter to call us. 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. I need more.
That's so good.
I need to know how many hours you were awake. I want to know if it was not you, but the student that put you to sleep. Hi, Linda.
Hi.
When did you fall asleep at work?
I was working at the health department, and I don't know. I just fell asleep, and one of my friends came in and said, Linda, you better not do this. I don't want you to get in trouble. You know, and I was so embarrassed, and I'd gone out with some friends the night before, and I have to get up early, like I'd get up at 5 in the morning because Flex Trans was at my door at 7 a.m. and you got to be there, or they can leave you. They only give you 5 minutes, and then goodbye. So I was so embarrassed, and I was so glad that it was a friend and not my boss.
Yes. Yeah, right. You need those colleagues, those coworkers who are on Team Linda to nudge you awake.
Wouldn't it make a ton of sense, though, for companies? And I know Google does this. They have little nap pods where you can go in. It basically envelops you. It gets dark, play some music, get a noise canceling. Because most of the time, all we need is like 20-minute power nap. And if we could just step away, take a quick nap, guilt-free, instead of trying to grind through and stay awake all the time.
So that's a great idea, and I am the inventor of such a pod. I used to use the underneath part of my desk for that. I'm happy to say that in the 21 almost years that I've worked here at Broadcast House for KSL, I have not that I can recall fallen asleep on the job. There may have been times that I've wanted to, but I haven't. But when I was at Channel 4 News across the street, that was not the case. There would be times I would get home late from a story, late meaning like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and they'd call me and say, oh, we need to come in tomorrow morning to anchor the morning show because at the time it was Barbara Smith, who was the main anchor there. She'd take a sick day once in a while. So I'd be like, I can be there. I can be there for Babs, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's a four-hour turnaround because you're not just on air at 6 a.m. You're there by 5 going over scripts. That means you got to get up at 3:30 to get dressed, get makeup on, get to the studio. And I would convert the underneath part of my desk into a little nap pod once I came off the air officially
just
at
sleep
about
on the ground.
8:30. Yeah, and before anybody. And the job of the co-anchor was to wake me.
Your job is to wake me up.
Yeah, before the boss came in to see me snoozing. But 20 minutes was just enough.
Anyone that works crazy hours should automatically, if you're not 9 to 5, you should automatically be given a 20-minute nap break. Wherever you want it, whenever you want, guilt-free.
Brandon, hi. You fell asleep on the job?
I did. So I'm an audiologist, and I'm an audiologist for the Army. And anyway, and so this one particular time there's a race you can do in the Army called the Norwegian Ruck March. And so I completed that, but one of the rules is that you start the race at midnight, and then you run all through the night. And then in order to get the pin for it in the Army, you have to work the next day. Anyway, and so I went into work the next day after having run all night, and I was so tired, but I felt bad because I was in the middle of testing a soldier's hearing, and all of a sudden, all I remember is opening my eyes, and the poor soldier was sitting in the booth, and I have no idea how long I was asleep for. It could have been 5 seconds. It could have been 10 minutes. Anyway, but the poor soldier was just sitting there probably thinking he's deaf because he hadn't heard a beat in a long time.
Oh, no.
I don't hear a thing.
That's amazing,
There's no
Brandon.
sounds.
Oh.
I've lost my hearing totally.
Well,
Diane in Lehigh. Diane, what's your experience?
Hi. This was a different kind of a job. I was a missionary over in Japan, and it was cold. And my companion, who is Japanese, and I were doing an introduction to a lesson, and it was back in the day with slide projectors. And my job was to turn the projector at the beep, and my companion was teaching, and the beep went, and the projector didn't change. And we were sitting on the floor at a table that has the heat lamp under, and it was so warm, I had fallen asleep. And it
Lights were
kept
down.
beeping. So finally we stopped, turned off the projector, and we all took a nap.
I love it. I love it.
Lean into it. I love it, Diane.
Hi, Laurel.
Hi.
When did you doze off?
I shared an office with a guy, and he noticed that I had fallen asleep. So I was working at a drafting table. They're, really high.
Yes.
So he finally said to me, Laurel, just crawl under the table and go to sleep. And so I crawled under the table, and he draped the map over the edge of the table so nobody could see me. And while I was under there, my boss came in and said, "Where's Laurel?" And he said, "I don't know. I think she went downstairs."
Oh.
And I was underneath the drafting table sleeping.
What a guy.
Boss. That is fantastic. What a coworker.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Coworker of the year.
And you probably felt a lot better with that little cat nap. Who wouldn't? Laurel, that's great. We all need coworkers like him to drape maps over our desks.
Debbie, I got you. You take a nap anywhere, I will cover for you 100%.
I've got one more story. So back in the day, I worked at KKAT Radio. If you've been around here a long time, you know that was the country radio station in town. But I also worked, again, still working at Channel 4 News here in town. So I was working double shifts. I had to be at KKAT by 5 a.m. I sometimes didn't get off air at KTVX until well after 10 p.m. at night. So I would leave morning drive, my shift of morning drive at KKAT, and I'd run to the Capitol because I was one of the legislative reporters there at the time. And they had a little room downstairs for the media, and there was a sofa there.
Blessed day.
I fell asleep in Utah State Capitol building more times that year than I napped in my own home. It was marvelous. Maria Chaleos up next with a full 3 hours of Midday with Maria. I'll be listening, and I know you will be too.
The news of the day lands harder when it affects you.
I really want our stories to focus more on the human element. Focus on how it's affecting the mom and her children. I want us to go more in depth and really take a look at what is at the heart of the story and how does it affect your pocketbook, or how does it affect